What's up, everybody? Good morning and happy Tuesday. DK Show coming to you from the TDS Sports Talk studios this morning. Appreciate you tuning in, whether it's on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, available online, sportstalk1051.com. You've got your smart devices, video stream, also up and rolling on a YouTube. Go click that subscribe, follow, whatever the kids call it these days. And such. Got the app as well, multiple different ways for you to be tuning in this morning. What do we have on our game plan? We've got a ton right now on our game plan. First off, Brewers last night suffering their first loss of the season, 3-2 to the Tampa Bay Rays, thanks to Tampa hitting go-ahead run double. Fortes hitting the go-ahead double in the top of the ninth off of Trevor McGill to take a 3-2 lead and to hold on to victory. Rays began the game with a solo shot, leadoff home run, Nick Harrison giving it up. But after that, Nick Harrison was pretty solid in his Brewers debut. Brewers ended up taking the lead in the bottom of the sixth thanks to a two-run shot from William Contreras, but the Rays tying it up in the top of the seventh. And, of course, as we just said, getting that go-ahead run in the ninth. So, Brewers, hey, they say you can't win them all, right? So that's obviously the case with the Brewers last night. But it's Brandon Woodruff Day today. So got that going for us, which is nice. Hopefully it's nice, right? So we get to see Brandon Woodruff in action for the Brew Crew today. We'll recap last night's loss, take a look ahead to tonight's game with Woodruff on the mound. What's your expectations for Brandon Woodruff this year? What are you hoping, like a baseline? Like, hey, if we just get this from Brandon Woodruff, I would be ecstatic. All right? I think we all know it's probably not going to be 200 innings, but hey, if he does get 200 innings, you'd be ecstatic. You'd be pumped. You'd be excited, right? So what are you just hoping to get from Woodruff this year? So, but before the game yesterday, some interesting news dropping regarding the Brewers. It is being reported that the Brewers have locked up one of their younger minor league players to a long-term deal similar to what they did with Jackson Chourio, and it's Cooper Pratt. So Cooper Pratt reportedly yesterday, 8-year deal worth around $50 million. We gotta talk about this here a little bit. So Cooper Pratt. And there's some club options and such with this, but it's something that obviously we have talked about at length here for the last, I guess whole spring training and such. But you look at the infielders, and we've talked about the depth, whether it's Jesus Mate, it's Jet Williams, and then Cooper Pratt. I know I wasn't the only one. Kind of felt like, okay, is Cooper Pratt maybe going to be the guy that's the odd man out and potentially a trade bait or something? But now he's locked up for an 8-year deal, about $50 billion. And he's a great defensive shortstop. Could have some improvements within his offensive side of things. And it's just, what's your thoughts on your first thoughts on this move? Signing Cooper Pratt. And again, he's only played a couple of games at the AAA level. And it doesn't feel like he's going to be called up at any time soon. Maybe we're wrong on that aspect, but they keep saying that he's got major league style defense. Offense could, improve. Maybe that kind of sounds like Joey Ortiz in some aspects. So I don't know. I kind of surprises me, and I think it surprised a lot of people yesterday, considering they acquired Jet Williams, kind of thought Joe Williams was going to be the next man up. So maybe this is, he's going to be the third baseman. And then you got Jesus Mate potentially, coming down the wire here soon as that second. I know Cooper Pratt's got a little bit of experience at second base and such, but I don't know. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting. So what are your thoughts? What was your thoughts when you first heard the news yesterday? So we're going to talk about this and maybe some, I guess, ramifications, or what does this mean for some of the other players on this roster. So we'll hit that up. Lots of Brewers chat here this morning to open up things here in a little bit. We'll go back to what Matt LaFleur, some of the comments that he had to say yesterday. Not only Matt LaFleur, but Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst also speaking a little bit. Got some comments from Packers president Ed Policy with the owners' meetings going on down in Arizona. So we'll get to some of the comments from those. Specifically, Matt LaFleur, I think, are the big ones and such. Just a couple of them, according to our good friend Rob Domofsky, about running a 3-4 base with Jonathan Gannon. Matt LaFleur saying, we played a lot of 3-4 principles last season, so should be an easy transition to that. Finding ways to finish games. He said that's been on the forefront of my mind. It starts with a mentality, but it's got to be in everything we do. There's going to be a start and finish to every drill. But perhaps one of the more interesting comments and such, and honestly, some of the stuff that he brought up yesterday or talked about were some of the questions that I had for him. And one of them was that Players Association grade. And he said, I don't feel that way, but unfortunately some guys did. That tells me I've got to do a better job of communicating. It goes back to the relationship piece. I think it's so critical. We always talk about connected teams, our powerful teams, and we have to grow that connection. Certainly, that's been a topic of conversation within our building of how do we get these guys a little closer? Because the more they know each other, I think the more they're going to battle for one another. And he also was honest and said, quote, if I'm being honest about it, I think there were some guys that were upset about roles last year, and I think that took a toll on our football team. I think from a coaching standpoint, role clarity is key. We've got to obviously do a better job communicating with our players. Hey, here's your role, and if you're unhappy about your role, it's on you to do something about that, to carve out a role on this football team. But yeah, the buy-in is absolutely critical, getting guys in there that are juiced and ready to go to work, and every day is going to be critical for us. So we'll go through some more of the comments that he had to say yesterday from the owners' meeting and such. So football talk coming your way. Hoops-wise, the Badger women's basketball team, their WBIT run is over after they fell to Columbia yesterday. So we'll chat all things Badgers with RJ Cardinal, including the men's hockey team getting set for their Frozen Four match against North Dakota coming up on Thursday. So RJ will join us in a couple hours from now. Bucks are also back in action, taking on the Dallas Mavericks. If you're still geared up for Bucks season and such. So we got a little hoops action coming your way. It is a Toyson Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday. What's grinding your gears? All right. Get it off your chest. Feel better about yourself. Hit us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. You can also join in on the Section 105 chat on our YouTube channel. Also, it is a Forgive Me, Sports Gods, for I have sinned. What's your sports confessions? All right. It's all about making yourself feel better on a Feel Better Tuesday. All right. So what's a confession? What's something maybe, that's been bugging you and you're like, hey, I got to confess my sports sins here. Come on, share it with us. All right. Also, it is I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. I'm not saying blank, but I'm just saying blank. Best ones we'll read up on the air. So continue to send those on over too. So as you can tell, we've got a loaded up game plan for this morning. So pitter patter, let's get at her, shall we? We got the leadoff coming up here, and we're going to talk some baseball. We're going to talk some Brewers. Brewers suffering their first loss of the season. We'll take a look at last night's game. Take a look at Brandon Woodruff making his regular season debut tonight. What's your expectations? What would you, just kind of a minimum expectation from Brandon Woodruff? Hey, if we get this from Woody this year, I'd be satisfied. I'd be more than happy. I'd be good. All right. What should the expectation be for Brandon Woodruff this year? And a little bit more than just stay healthy. All right, that's cool. He's healthy, but what if he's like 5-12 with a 5 ERA? Are you good with that? So I want a little more than just health. I think we all want health. So from a performance standpoint, from Brandon Woodruff, what would you like to see? Because we all want him to be healthy, and we all want him to pitch in September and October. But from a performance standpoint, what's your bare minimum? What's your bare expectation for Brandon Woodruff? And then this Cooper Pratt deal, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like completely surprised and 1 like not surprised at all. What was your instant reaction when you heard about this yesterday? All right. Scale of 1 to 10. Hit me up. Let me know. All right. We'll take our first break, and then we've got the leadoff coming your way after these quick words. Stocking up for spring? Well, hey, Hy-Vee in Eau Claire has everything you need to fill your pantry or pack up your freezer and maybe get ready for some outdoor meals, little picnics, little outdoor cookouts and such, from fresh cuts of meats and easy grill-ready favorites to frozen essentials, snacks, and quick weeknight dinners. Hy-Vee makes it simple to be prepared for whatever the season brings. Planning a backyard cookout? Hey, they've got the buns, they've got the sides, and all the options and flavors to make it easy. Stop on in today, stock up, and save time and enjoy more moments around the table or the grill. And don't forget, too, you can save money at the gas pump with Hy-Vee perks. So Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, where there is a helpful smile in every aisle. We know prices going up, so it'd be the best way to save gas at the pump. Take advantage of those deals at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. I did this morning on the way to work, filled up. Used some save some money with my fuel perks from Hy-Vee too. So good stuff there. All right, let's get the leadoff going here this morning. Talking some Brewers. Jeremy says, I think expecting Woodruff. I think expecting Woodruff to end with 8 or more wins, 125 innings or more pitched, and 140 more strikeouts. Mostly, I'm expecting him to be the stopper. It is bound to happen that the Brewers will be in a slump or the bullpen will be exhausted and need a big start. I expect Woody to be that stopper and give them 6 innings or more in those games. Jeremy, I think that's really good. I think that's what I'm looking for right there. That's really good. That's solid. And I can't argue with any of that. I agree with that. Those are really some good points, Jeremy. Tip of the cap to you. Get a gold star this morning. But I think that's fair. I think a lot of that is fair. So how about the rest of you? What are your expectations from Brandon Woodruff outside of health? Because, again, we all want the guy to stay healthy. We all want the guy to be able to pitch in September and October. All right? So from a performance standpoint, what are your expectations for Brandon Woodruff when it comes to, hey, if he just gives us this or if he does this for us, I'd be happy. And let's be realistic with this. Of course, we would all love Brandon Woodruff to go out there and win 20 games and have a 2-something ERA. Is that going to happen? Probably not. But hey, never say never. Maybe it will, and we'd be pumped. But what is that kind of minimum expectation and such? So we'll get to Brandon Woodruff talk here in just a little bit. But last night, Brewers suffering their first loss of the season, 3-2 to the Tampa Bay Rays. But Kyle Harrison giving up a home run to right away to lead off the game to Diaz. But after that, Kyle Harrison was pretty solid. He was pretty solid. I think, you look at his line, 5 innings, 4 hits, that 1 earned run, only issuing 1 walk and 8 strikeouts. After that leadoff home run, Kyle Harrison looked the part. And Kyle Harrison is a pitcher. I know I mentioned it yesterday. I am really excited to see what he is able to provide, what he is able to do for the team this year, because I think he's got a ton of talent. And I think he has the potential to develop into a really, really good starter for the next few years here for the Brewers. I think he's got some nasty stuff. And I just think sky's the limit for Harrison. And outside of that home run, that one mistake, and obviously issuing a walk and such too, but overall, I thought he looked really good. He's got a unique delivery too, right? He's really quick and not much of a windup and such, but I was impressed. So outside that home run, they didn't lose last night's game because of Kyle Harrison giving up a leadoff home run. They didn't lose because of that. Brewers, they left 7 on base. They had just 5 total hits. 6 total hits last night. Contreras giving them a couple of them, including that 2-run shot to take the lead. There wasn't a whole lot of production besides that. And Brewers throwing out McGill in the ninth to preserve the tie, not able to get it done. And not able to tie it up in the bottom of the ninth. So can't win them all. Nobody likes a dynasty, but the 162-0 dream is officially in the books. Hey, you can't go 161-1 without losing one, right? But to me last night, the biggest thing was the performance of Harrison and getting our first glimpse of Kyle Harrison. And sets the bar pretty high. You know, he's probably going to have a couple games, maybe even a few games where he's not going to pitch that well. There's probably going to be a little inconsistency and such because he is still a younger pitcher and such. But I think we saw a glimpse, or we saw a big part of why there's a lot of excitement surrounding Kyle Harrison and what he could potentially do for this ball club this year. So, but we'll try. Brewers will try again later today. Later tonight, and that's where we go back to Brandon Woodruff. Brandon Woodruff making his season debut tonight, and when you look at it, you know, Woodruff, there is about a couple games worth of experience with some of the Tampa Bay hitters going up against Woodruff. Nothing that I would really write home about, but you got Shane McClanahan on the mound for Tampa Bay. You got a lefty. And you got about 2-3 games of experience with some of these players on there. Bowers, 5 at-bats, 400 against him. Contreras, 3 at-bats, 333. But Rengifo is got 9 career at-bats, 111. And Sanchez, 8 career at-bats, 125. Yelich, 3 career at-bats, and he's 0-for. So we'll probably see a right-handed heavy lineup for the Brewers going up against the left-handed pitcher. Now, I don't know if that means because the Brewers also did make a trade yesterday to acquire a right-handed bat. Luis Matos is coming over from the Giants in exchange for cash. In 178 career games in 3 major league seasons, 230, he's slashing 231, 281, and a 369. Just 24 years old and was a top 100 prospect as recently as the start of the 2022 season. So, you know, not obviously a big acquisition and such, but Brewers looking, as Matt Arnold said yesterday, I think he's a guy who can help us from the right-hand side with the loss of Vaughn and Cheerio at the moment. It's a guy we feel could give us some offense from the right side, and he's really athletic. He's a former top 100 prospect who our scouts really like. So the Brewers designated for assignment left-handed pitcher Sammy Peralta in a corresponding move for the 40-man roster. They will have to make a 26-man roster move when he does arrive, which could possibly mean Jefferson Kiro gets sent back down so he can play every day and such. So I don't know if that means if he is going to be in the lineup today and such with the right-handed bat in that, but I would imagine Brewers are going to try to maybe get maybe it's a Sanchez at catcher and Contreras DH, or could Sanchez at first base and Contreras still at catcher, and then you keep Yelich, at the DH spot and maybe a little Blake Perkins action. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what this lineup's going to be, considering the Brewers don't have 2 of their top right-handed hitters going up against a left-handed pitcher tonight. So, but I think for Woodruff, my expectations for him, my bare minimum expectations, again, outside of health, if he's a guy that can get you in the ERAs of like low 3s, 3, maybe mid 3s, if he could play, if he can make 20 starts might be a little too much for Woodruff, but I like 15 to 20 starts, I guess. I like Jeremy's innings count. I think, let me do some quick math here. If I'm looking at, I think 20, 22 starts, I think is That'd be awesome to get from Brandon Woodruff somewhere around there, because then you're in that 140, 100, well, about 100 and 120, 140, 145 inning range. I mean, it depends on how well how deep he goes into it. And I'll be curious to see if Brandon Woodruff initially is kind of on a pitch count to open up the season, because they were building him up so much in spring training, and there were still questions on whether he was going to be, in the opening rotation and such. So I'll be curious to see if they kind of put him on a pitch count earlier on in the season. And if that's the case, that'll probably, limit him out his innings and such. But I mean, if he's efficient, and I think that's the big thing too, is I want some consistency for Brandon Woodruff. Being the veteran within this rotation, I think a big boost that he could provide for this pitching staff and for this rotation is the consistency that he can bring to the table. Because I think you're going to have some inconsistent starts with the younger pitchers, like a Sproat, like a Harrison, maybe even a little bit with Miz and Chad Patrick. But what Brandon Woodruff could really do is provide that stability within the rotation, kind of like what Jeremy mentioned a little bit earlier. Kind of the stopper. Okay, when it's Brandon Woodruff's turn in the rotation, you kind of know what to expect from him. You kind of know what you're going to get. Is he the ace of the staff? No, probably not. We talk about that with the ace of the staff. When it's that guy's turn in the rotation, you're feeling pretty darn good that you're going to come away with a W. And I think you could still have that mindset with Woodruff. You're feeling good. I know Yelich last year said there's nobody else that he'd want starting, a high situation game, high leverage game, playoff type of game than Brandon Woodruff. And I just think he's got that amount of respect within the clubhouse and has the confidence of his teammates that when he is out on that mound and when he's pitching that game, team probably feels really confident that they're going to come away with a W. They just got to do their part. They got to do their part on the offensive side of things. They got to go out there and score enough runs because they're feeling good that he's going to pitch a solid game. So they got to do their part. I think that's honestly the biggest thing that I want from Brandon Woodruff is just consistency, stability, providing that in the rotation. Obviously, we want gems. We want great outings. We want, W's and such. But if he could be that constant presence within that lineup, I think that would be a huge, huge boost to this pitching rotation that is full of young, inexperienced starters. But yeah, 3-something ERA, looking at between 20, 25 games, 22 games, something like that. I mean, there's a lot of, right? I mean, there's a lot of different things we can kind of pinpoint in and such. So, all right, we got to take a quick break. Plenty more Brewers talk coming up. Got to talk a little bit about Cooper Pratt, too. What was your first thought when you heard this deal yesterday, when you heard this report that the Brewers locking up Cooper Pratt to an 8-year deal? Give me your instant reaction. Hit me up with a message. All right, quick break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Spring is here, and that means it's the perfect time to freshen up your home at Carpet City Flooring Center. Now is the season to take a look at what's under your feet and imagine what it could be. From soft, comfortable carpet that makes any room feel cozier to luxury vinyl planks and tile built for busy homes, there's something for every space, every budget, and every lifestyle. Hey, maybe it's one room that needs a refresh, or maybe it's time for a full home update. Either way, their team is there to help guide you through it all, from choosing the right style to professional installation that you could count on. Because spring isn't just about cleaning out the old, it's about bringing in something better, a brighter space, a cleaner look, a home that feels new again. So if you're ready to upgrade this season, stop on in and see what's possible. Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire, where your next project starts from the floor on up. So yesterday, the news before the game, between game one between the Brewers and Tampa Bay was, and nothing's officially official yet from the Brewers, but Cooper Pratt reportedly signing an 8-year deal around $50 million. That's being reported out there. Looking at a little bit more, it says multiple sources told MLB.com that he is closing in on an 8-year contract worth just north of $50 million, with 2 club options for at least an additional $15 million per season. John Heyman reported that the guarantee will be $50.75 million. So I'll admit, and I texted. It's like, hey, our good friend, Mr. Berg, who is my go-to Brewers guy with this whole thing. And I'm like, dude, what's your thoughts on this one? Explain, what's there. He's like, not really sure I can. He said, I'm sure their thinking is they're confident in his ability to lock down shortstop for the next many years, but really surprised about it as well with the other guys they have. Honestly thought he might be trade bait at some point. And honestly, I feel like that was probably what a lot of people thought. They acquired Jet Williams, who could play all across the infield, can play a little bit in the outfield too. You got Jesus, kind of going on that same path, that same trajectory of one Jackson Cheerio, and he plays shortstop too. So it kind of felt like that. All right, is Cooper Pratt maybe a guy that is going to be a little bit of potential trade bait? Not the case, though, it feels like, with this contract. So Cooper Pratt is right now mostly known for his defense. Very instinctive, very solid defensive player. And many believe it's major league ready when you talk about his defense. The one concern, or maybe not concern, but maybe the one area that he needs improvement on is his offense. And this is his first year of playing in AAA, so he's only got a couple of games AAA. But last year in the Southern League, he this was his slash line, 238, 343, 348. And according to Adam McCulvey, who covers the Brewers for Brewers.com, one source told him, quote, "What we saw with Jackson when he signed, it gave him the freedom to just go play. With Cooper, knowing he doesn't have to worry about anything, he has the freedom to go work in the cage, work with the hitting coaches, and adjust. We know the defense is there. He can play defense in the big leagues right now. That's not in doubt for anybody. We're not talking about a project." So if that is the case, where they're locking him up for an 8-year deal and $50-some million, and hoping that maybe that relaxes him a little bit, maybe helps improve his offensive production, is that a little bit of a risk? 100%. This is, Brewers have done these deals with the likes of Freddie Peralta, Aaron Ashby, obviously Jackson Cheerio, where they lock him up for, a little bit of a long-term deal, but banking on that the deal is going to look like a bargain. And if Cooper Pratt performs at a high level, maybe improves his offense and already has a major league defense, the deal will look like a bargain. It'll fit that. The Freddie Peralta deal was a bargain. Maybe the Jackson Cheerio one right now is already looking like a bargain. And they're banking on that this will look like a bargain as well. But it is a little bit of a surprise because of the depth that they have at that position. With the guys that we already talked about. And Pat Murphy couldn't really talk about it yesterday, but talking about Cooper Pratt himself, he said, what's not to like? He has aptitude. He's a baseball player, a good baseball player. He's got a ways to go. He's got to develop, but he's a great human and a great worker. I hope I'm around when he gets to the big leagues. You hear Murphy say that, and it almost feels like Cooper Pratt isn't coming up anytime soon. And I think, and I kind of thought this too, but I think a lot of fans are assuming that, okay, now with this deal, is he going to be called up at any point? Like anytime soon right now. And you listen to Murphy right there, when he says, I hope I'm around when he gets to the big leagues. He's got to develop. He's got a ways to go. It doesn't really paint the picture that he's going to be around or called up, I should say, anytime soon here. That's kind of what it feels like. So I don't know if confusing is the right word to describe it. It's a little surprising and such. But yeah, I'm curious to see how this plays out. How does this affect, position-wise? Because I don't think they're going to move on from Jet Williams. In fact, I think Jet Williams is going to be called up before Cooper Pratt at some point. But maybe they view Jet Williams better as the third baseman, or the fact that he could play outfield. Is he an option over there? Yeah, possibly, maybe he's the left fielder, and maybe Cheerio moves full time to center field if they want to ever move on from Garrett Mitchell, and you got Salvatore Frelick, manning right field and such. But yeah, because Jesus, yes, he could play second base too, but he's a shortstop, second base. You got Pena, who's just in a high A right now, but he's an option. You look at the top 4 prospects within the Brewers system. The top 4 prospects, they're all infielders. They're all shortstop experienced players. With Jesus, with Luis, with Jet, and with Cooper. Cooper being the 4th. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how it all plays out. And the all jokes aside, Cooper doesn't really fit the size narrative when it comes to the Brewers. He's 6'4". He's not 5'8", 5'7", or whatever. All jokes aside there. But yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how this all plays out. Because Cooper too, when you look at he's played a couple games at second, but he has primarily just played shortstop. So if anybody's thinking, oh, could he be third? But that's the other thing too. Okay, all right, third base. There's a kid who just dominated in the World Baseball Classic who played third base. A guy by the name of Andrew Fisher, who's playing in high A this year, but he's their 6th ranked prospect. So, yeah, there's that down the pipeline. This is going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out in the next couple of years. I think the Brewers are well positioned depth-wise for the next couple of years. But to think about, let's say, 3 years from now, is it possible that the infield could be Fisher, Cooper, Jesus? Maybe Jet Williams is an outfielder. Maybe Jet Williams is traded somewhere around there. They're in position to do that sort of stuff. At least right now it looks like. Then you got Brock Wilken. He's at third base at the AAA level right now. He's a bigger dude too. Could he potentially move over to first base? Maybe. Possibly. But they've got options. They've got depth. Talk about it with the Packers all the time. I don't mind depth. Depth is a good thing. When you have options and when you have flexibility, it's a good thing. Make some tough decisions on who to move on from or who to trade or who to call up in that. But I'd rather have those decisions than like, oh, crap, we're stuck with this because we don't have any other better options. But I think now with this deal, what it does is, okay, maybe it relaxes him in the cage and such. Maybe it relaxes him so he has better offensive, output and such. I just wonder if, okay, we get a few months down the road, and he's still not at the major league level. Does he start to press himself like, man, I got this contract now. I got to go out there and I got to play better so I get called up so I show that I'm worthy of this contract. Because, fans are going to start to have that internal clock and countdown saying, hey, when are we going to see this guy? Especially, let's say, if Ortiz struggles offensively. And it's clearly evident they need another option at short. There's going to be a little bit of that kind of outside pressure. All right, we got to take a quick break as we wrap up this final hour. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Looking for the perfect place to kick back this spring and summer? Well, then you need to head on over to the VFW Post 305, Eau Claire's go-to spot to relax, grab a beverage, and enjoy the moment. Inside, it's great. It's a great place to meet up with friends, but when the weather warms up, it's all about that patio. With one of the best river views in town, there's no better place to soak up the sunshine, unwind after work, or spend a weekend afternoon. Cold drinks, great people, and a view that you can't beat. VFW Post 305 in Eau Claire, your spot to hang out this season. And if you're wondering where to maybe grab some breakfast this morning, doesn't that sound good? I could really go for a ham and cheese omelet right now. But breakfast, VFW Post 305, Star Avenue in Eau Claire, the place to be. I thought this was, first of all, Carl says to do basically the same thing they did with Cheerio. They must love Cooper's potential. I thought this was an interesting nugget when I was looking up some stuff about Cooper Pratt last night. This was from Adam McCulvey a while ago, but Cooper Pratt spent the spring trying to learn Spanish to better communicate with his Latin American teammates. That's the type of person and personality the Brewers are drawn to and really appreciate in their clubhouse. I thought that was a really cool note and a really cool nugget that Cooper Pratt took it upon himself to try to learn another language, to try to learn Spanish, to better communicate with some of his teammates. Not many players do that. Not many other people do that. So when you talk about it from a leadership standpoint, that's pretty impressive. So, yeah, we'll talk more about that. We've got Morgan to finish up the hour. Good morning, Morgan.
Hola, mi amigo. ¿Cómo está?
Yeah, I don't know who messes with my stuff over the weekend, but I got cameras that are all over the place, like knocked over and stuff.
Well, if you have cameras all over the place, you should know who messes with your stuff. Surveillance video, man. Find out who's doing this.
Oh, webcam stuff.
I'm telling you, I like the Pratt approach. If more people did things like that, we'd live in a better world.
Oh, the
taking it on and learning it, and because ultimately, aren't you just augmenting your own skill set too? It makes you a better person. You're able to communicate better with other people, and it's completely incongruent to this tendency to be entitled to everything. Mm-hmm. I like that different approach. That is exactly the track to be running on, I think.
Yeah.
And everybody wins. Mm-hmm. You're communicating better. The team wins, most importantly, and you have that synergy with the rest of the teammate with communication. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's talk about things you don't like. Is it a Grind My Gears Tuesday?
It is a Grind My Gears Tuesday.
Should we make the driving age 18?
Ooh.
And not 16? Now, don't speak as 16-year-old Kasper, who was probably like, your tail was wagging to drive when you were 16.
Well, so it's interesting because I was talking with one of my neighbors a couple weeks ago, and he's got a son approaching driving age, and he said it's different than when we were younger because they're not all geeked up.
Ding, ding, ding. They're pretty ambivalent about it.
Yeah.
Like right now, Siggy's putting in hours, and I'm taking her driving and stuff. But yesterday, I picked her and a friend up from ball practice, and I said, "Do you want to drive home?" And after the friend was out of the car, nobody get on me. This was not, I'm following the rules, but we dropped the friend off, and I said, "Do you want to drive home?" And she said, I'm just going to ride. Okay, 15, 16-year-old me, never was that an option. Yeah. We wanted to drive, but now, do you think it's because one of the main motivations when we were that age was to get out, meet your friends, do stuff? Because of social media, and everybody feels like they're already in touch with everything, so they don't actually have to go to the meeting place. They don't have to show up at the park to throw a ball. They don't have to go to the mall.
Even like, we had cell phones when we were younger, but the draw was the snake game on that, for crying out loud.
Right.
So before the texting rage and that. So
then is there a gap in maturity that we should also attend to by raising that driving age to 18? Because I would also argue that back at 16, you're coming from a cultural tendency to already be driving farm equipment or things like that. So you were younger, naturally, you were in these positions to drive things. Now, because of the way that society has moved, that's not necessarily the norm for kids, so they're not even around equipment or put behind the wheel of anything.
Yeah.
For the first time, bam, 15, here you go. Should that be, in response to where we're at, pushed out a little bit to 18?
It's interesting.
Something to think about.
Something to ponder.
There you go.
So, all right.
Ponder away. If you have a 16-year-old, Let me know what they think.
Right. All right. Thanks, Margs. One in. We got three more to go. We'll be back after these news updates. Second hour kicking off right now on this final day of March 31st. Thanks for hanging out with us, however you're tuning in, wherever you are tuning in from. We'll get back. We got plenty more Brewers talk to hit up. So if you missed our conversation in the first hour, first off, where the heck were you? Still sleeping? Get up out of bed. We were talking last night's first loss of the season. But Kyle Harrison, I thought outside of the leadoff home run, dude was pretty darn solid, I thought, in his Brewers debut. We get the Brandon Woodruff regular season debut tonight for the Crew. So outside of health, because we all want that for Brandon Woodruff. What is kind of like your expectation or your bare minimum? For instance, finish this sentence. If Brandon Woodruff gives us this, I'd be happy. All right, so we've had a couple of you throw out some stuff in that, so hit me up. All right, 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors Bullpen line, or you can join in on the YouTube chat in section 105. Also, what was your thoughts on the reported extension contract, I should say, new contract for Cooper Pratt? You know, of all the infielders, of all the shortstop that the Brewers have in their farm system, in their minor league system, it kind of felt like maybe Cooper Pratt was the odd man out and maybe going to be some trade bait. But reportedly, Brewers will be giving him an 8-year deal worth north of just $50-some million. So, your thoughts. All right, your thoughts. 715-830-1912. Or, again, hit us up on the YouTube chat. So, plenty more Brewers chat to get to this morning. We've got some Badger basketball, the women's team. Their WBIT run officially over with after falling to Columbia yesterday. The Badger men's hockey team going to be in action, the Frozen Four, on Thursday. We've got some spring football stuff to be talking about. So RJ Cardinal will be joining us next hour around 8:20, 8:20 to talk about all that. It is a Toyson Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday. So, what's grinding your gears? What is grinding your gears? All right? Get it off your chest. Also, give me some sports confessions. What are you confessing? It's like a feel-good Tuesday, or I should say a feel-better Tuesday. It's a feel-better Tuesday, all right? What do you got to confess sports-wise? And what do you got that you want to get off your chest from a Grind My Gears standpoint? It is also I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. All right, I'm not saying blank, but I'm just saying blank. Best ones. I'll read up on the air. Nick says, still a chance to go 161-1, 4 solid innings, maybe giving up 1 run. Are you talking Woodruff for that? I want Woodruff expectations for this season. They're Nicholas. So, C-Bomb says, is it not insane that they're throwing tens of millions of dollars to these kids who haven't even played in AAA? I get why they're doing it, but holy smokes, has the landscape of contracts for baseball changed? It's wild. It is. And yeah, it definitely is kind of hard to maybe imagine and such, but I also feel like this is, and we talked about it, I think, and a lot of people kind of mentioned it around the Jackson Cheerio deal, that maybe this is the way for the Brewers to be able to compete. You know, we see a little bit with the Braves. They've done similar stuff to this. Other teams have kind of done similar stuff to this where it's risk, throwing a bunch of money at an unproven talent, but you're hoping that risk turns out to be a huge bargain, kind of like it was when they signed Freddie Peralta to a deal. Aaron Ashby, they did the same thing. Then he got hurt. Now he's kind of developed into their main go-to guy out of the pen. Jackson Cheerio, now Cooper Pratt. I think the Cooper Pratt one is a little bit more surprising because, well, first, Freddie Peralta we saw a little bit in the major leagues. So we saw Aaron Ashby a little bit in the major leagues. Jackson Cheerio we kept hearing about constantly, right? Cooper Pratt we heard a little bit about, but then I think he kind of got lost in the shuffle after the acquisitions of Jet Williams and then Jesus. Like if all of a sudden, take away Cooper Pratt's name, but it was Jesus signing that deal, you probably have a lot of fans saying, all right, yeah, here we go. It was just like Jackson Cheerio again, because we've heard nothing but positive stuff, and we've seen nothing but positive stuff from playing standpoint, offensive standpoint with Jesus. Cooper it got lost in the shuffle the last year or so because they acquired Jet Williams, and we've heard nothing but great things about Jet Williams, and the same with Jesus. If it was one of those two guys, I honestly feel like there would probably be a good number of Brewers fans just nodding like, okay, yep, that's Jackson. That's like the Jackson contract. Makes sense. But with it being Cooper Pratt, a guy that I think a lot of people assume that, all right, maybe he's going to be trade bait. That was like, oh, well, what does that mean for this and that and that sort of thing? I know one name that a lot of people are kind of throwing out there and saying, what does it mean for this person is Bryce Terang. You know, what does it mean for Bryce Terang in the near future? Now, I don't think that the Brewers are looking to move on from Bryce Terang by any means. And especially when you look at, you know, he's arbitration through 2029. He doesn't become an unrestricted free agent until 2030. But there's no question that dollar for arbitration continues to go up. If he continues to play the way he's playing, it's going to continue to go up. And maybe, just maybe Bryce Terang is kind of the example here for Cooper Pratt. Bryce Terang, rookie year, major leagues, great defensively. Really struggled offensively. Year 2, it clicked. And he has gotten better and better and better every single day. And maybe, just maybe, they're kind of hoping for the same thing with Cooper Pratt. Defense is there. And if that offense starts to click, that's another Bryce Terang. And instead of, you know, going through kind of a similar process and maybe hoping to get it, obviously they are hoping to get him by the cheap, because Bryce Terang in a couple of years, maybe he is a trade guy. And, yeah, he's going to, if he continues this trend, he's going to be making bank. I don't feel like it'll be anytime soon, but, you know, that the Brewers would move on from him. But I think a lot of that's just going to maybe depend on the emergence of Jesus. If Jesus is ready to come up and he's just raking, then maybe a guy like Terang becomes a little bit more expendable and such. Definitely interesting to watch now in the next couple of years. There's no question about it. So, all right, lots more Brewers talk, but what was your reaction on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like, holy moly. Like, wow. I did not expect it to happen, to 1, like, nah, not surprised at all. When you heard about the Cooper Pratt news yesterday. All right, give me a number on that scale. C-Bob says, Nick, I can't gauge what you just texted there. C-Bob says, for Woodruff, 120 innings, 11 wins, 3.5 ERA, 3 playoff wins. I think that would be a phenomenal season. All right, we got to take a quick break. I'm going to switch gears for just a little bit, and I want to talk some football, American football. Matt LaFleur chatted yesterday with the media at the coach's breakfast. What did he have to say about the Players Association grade? What did he have to say about his contract extension and some other things? Also, Brian Gutekunst chatted a little bit yesterday, heard a little bit from Ed Policy. So let's recap it all. All right. We'll get back to more baseball talk, but let's kind of switch gears here a little bit and talk some Packers football coming up after these quick words. Spring is here, and it's the perfect time for a fresh start and a new ride. Whether you are planning road trips, tackling some weekend projects, or you're just ready for something new, now's the time for an upgrade. And at Toys and Ford, you'll find a great selection of trucks, SUVs, and cars built to fit your lifestyle and your budget. Plus, their team is here to make your car buying experience easy and stress-free. This spring, drive something you love. Toys and Ford, your next adventure starts here. And it is a Toys and Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday, and Surveyor Sam has a Grind My Gears, and he's calling you out, C-Bomb. So hopefully you're listening. Good morning, DK. You know what grinds my gears? People like C-Bomb complaining that the Brewers are strategically trying to compete with the big dogs like the Cubs, the Dodgers, and the Yankees for money. In a world where those franchises can afford and outbid all other organizations, small teams like the Brewers and the Twins have to be creative. The Brewers locking up young talent while still in the minors gives them the opportunity to compete for years to come. Is it a gamble? Yes. But I'd rather the crew gamble on young talent and give them a paycheck than watch them walk out the door because you couldn't afford them later. Continue to send your Grind My Gears. Also, give me some sports confessions. All right, it is a Sports Confession Tuesday, and it is also I'm not saying blank, but I'm just saying blank. We'll wait for C-Bomb's response. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk some Pack. So yesterday, owners meeting, you had coaches breakfast, media able to catch up with some of the coaches and such, and obviously one of those coaches is Matthew LaFleur. First time that Matt LaFleur has talked since shortly after the season, so haven't talked to him since his contract extension, haven't talked to him since Jonathan Gannon and Rich Bisaccia and such. So just a few, obviously he said he's happy with the contract extension and such, yada, yada, yada. But I want to highlight a few of the things because yesterday we talked about, what would be some of the questions you would ask Matt LaFleur if you were at that breakfast. And honestly, he answered some of the questions that I would have asked. And I thought a couple of his answers were like, okay, that's intriguing and nothing really like mind-blowing and such. But when he was asked about getting a B- after getting an A- from the NFL Players Association report card, he commented on that and said that some players dinged LaFleur when it comes to respect for players. He said, quote, "I don't feel that way, but unfortunately some guys did. That tells me I've got to do a better job of communicating." It goes back to the relationship piece. I think it's so critical. We always talk about connected teams are powerful teams, and we have to grow that connection. Certainly, that's been a topic of conversation within our building of how do we get these guys a little closer? Because the more they know each other, I think the more they're going to battle for one another. So he also talked about later on and acknowledged that there were players that were not happy with their roles, saying, quote, "If I'm being honest about it, I think there were some guys that were upset about the roles last year, and I think that took a toll on our football team. I think from a coaching standpoint, role clarity is key. So we've got to obviously do a better job communicating with our players. Hey, here's your role, and if you're unhappy about your role, it's on you to do something about that, to carve out a role on this football team." But yeah, the buy-in is absolutely critical. Getting guys in there that are juiced and ready to go to work each day and every day is going to be critical for us. So, when he brought up, players being unhappy with their roles and such, of course, Packers social media right away went to suspect number one in Matthew Golden. But I also would say, okay, if it was him, Packers fans were probably really upset about his role too. We wanted to see more with him. So I don't think there was necessarily finger pointing like, oh, shame on you, that old shame, Matthew. Well, we're all upset about his role too, because I think a lot of us wanted to see more from Matthew Golden and such. Like, Matt, put him out there more, for crying out loud. I think, and this is, I think, a small sample size. And maybe not small. We don't know exactly, but I think it's a good reminder when it comes to, maybe those grades and that sort of thing, is that not everybody necessarily filled out that ballot or gave those grades. And maybe not everybody felt the same way as some of the players about their roles. It feels like maybe Quay Walker kind of felt like that when you look at his introductory press conference with the Raiders and such. But honestly, I feel like there's probably going to be that mindset on every team for a lot of players. They're maybe not happy with their roles for whatever reason and that. But, I'm not saying it's the most important thing that Matt LaFleur has to figure out this offseason, but I'm just saying it is a very, very critical aspect of his job that he has got to make sure that he has that locker room and that entire roster all on the same page heading into 2026. So I'm not saying it's the most important issue he's got to figure out this offseason, but I'm just saying it is absolutely one of the most critical ones. That's my I'm not saying, but I'm just saying Tuesday. Because, boy, you don't have everybody on the same page and you have some disgruntled players or, bad attitudes, bad seeds, or guys not buying into what you're selling. You ain't going to have a very successful season. And you're going to have more obstacles than there already is. I mean, it's hard already to win in the National Football League. It's hard to win games, period. And if you've got issues with players unhappy about their roles or not being on the same page or players not buying in, you're making it harder on yourself to win those games, to have a successful season. So before any of these regular season games begin, before the season starts, training camp, preseason, when they open that thing up and everybody's in the room and they have their preseason message, you better get everybody to buy in right there. Everybody better be on the same page right there. Everybody better know their roles right then and there. And you better have a great message to where everybody's buying in. Now, Matt LaFleur wouldn't say whether those players are still on the team or no longer on the team, but he did acknowledge that his low mark was, quote, I'm sure that had something to do with it. Talking about with a lot of that said, with the roles and that, but some other stuff about his contract extension. He said that I was confident in what we've been able to do. Certainly, are we satisfied? Heck no, not even close. Didn't say heck. Just in case I know we have kiddos listening. We always want more. Until you're hosting that Lombardi trophy, you're not going to be satisfied. And even then, you're going to want to do it again. I'm certainly grateful of the opportunity. I love this organization, the city, the people, the community. But I love our players too. Going to work with Jordan Love every day is a pretty cool deal. I think he is an unbelievable quarterback, but even a better guy. So some other things that Matt LaFleur chatted a little bit about yesterday in terms of his new defensive coordinator. Talking a little bit about Jonathan Gannon coming over and such, and the direction of going to a 3-4. He said that last year, Packers actually employed some 3-4 concepts within their defense, so doesn't feel like it's going to be a big transition and such. When he was asked about what stood out to him about Jonathan Gannon, he said he didn't know Gannon well before hiring him. So what stood out in his interview? I love the experience that he has, not only as a play caller, but as a head coach as well. Somebody that I'll be able to bounce things off of. The one weird thing that Matt LaFleur said yesterday, obviously he was asked about Rich Bisaccia leaving. And it was kind of a weird response from LaFleur, which I don't know if I necessarily buy. But he said that Bisaccia, when Bisaccia stepped down, LaFleur didn't have any direct convo with Rich Bisaccia about why he left, but assumed he wanted to be closer to his family. I don't know if I buy that. I don't know if I'm buying that. I mean, you're telling me that your special teams coordinator, who is also your assistant head coach, you didn't have a direct convo on why he left? You know, when Rich Bisaccia comes in and says, hey, I'm going to leave, you don't say why. You don't kind of get some of the feedback there. He did say that Rich Bisaccia gave him a list of names for the next special teams coordinator, and Cam Acord was on that list too. But yeah, I don't know if I necessarily buy that. That just that doesn't seem like that's a legit thing. So, tell you what, let's take a quick break. We've got some comments from Brian Gutekunst as well. So we'll take a look at what he had to say about the Rashawn Gary trade. Was he surprised to be able to get a 4th-round pick in return for Rashawn Gary? We'll tell you what he had to say, and maybe a new backup quarterback coming to Green Bay. We'll tell you about that. But we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Road trip season is right around the corner. Are you and your vehicle ready to go the distance? Before you hit the highway, make sure your vehicle is in top shape with the help from AJM Automotive. From oil changes and tire checks to brakes and engine work, their experienced team will make sure that you are ready for wherever the road takes you. And now with 2 convenient locations in Eau Claire, getting your vehicle service has never been easier. Plan the trip. AJM Automotive will handle the rest. Visit ajmautomotiveservices.com to schedule your appointment today. I've actually got my oil change scheduled today with AJM Automotive. Getting ready for that tournament travel season for baseball and such. So, before we get back to some more Packers talk, Clay says Jeff Suppan still grinds my gears. That's a good one, Clay. Appreciate that. Nick says, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, Coach LaFleur needs to take the Packers deep into the playoffs this year, or he'll really be on the hot seat. What did Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst have to say yesterday? Let's first start off. What did he have to say about Rashawn Gary? This was from Ryan Wood. He asked Goody if he was surprised that he got a 4th-round pick from the Cowboys for Rashawn Gary. Goody taking a little bit of the high road on this one, maybe he really believes this. Saying, quote, "It was tough to part with Rashawn because he is such a good player. I just think where we were going as a football team, it made a little bit of sense for us. Quite frankly, I think a guy with 60 pressures, 7.5 sacks, a guy you could kind of count on consistently like that, there's not a lot of those guys in the National Football League. He's still a pretty young player. Probably his best football is ahead of him. So not at all. We weren't going to move on from him unless we were going to get something that made sense for us. And I think where we're headed as a football team, it made sense to do the deal with Dallas. They're getting a really good player." So that was his comments about Rashawn Gary. Other stuff that he had to say yesterday. Sky Moore, he said that the return game last year was not where I wanted it to be, and I'm excited to get Sky into the fold. So in terms of an update on Micah Parsons and such, said that we've invested quite a bit in him, so we'll be very protective of that investment. Said that Nate Weir, their trainer, has been in constant contact with him, and actually just visited him down in Texas and such, and said everything is going great. He also said about Zaire Franklin that the Packers actually tried to acquire Franklin earlier. They tried to acquire him early on in his career. Goody noticed Franklin on special teams, and he wanted the linebacker then. So now was able to get him a couple of years later. So, but those were a couple comments from Goody yesterday during the owners' meetings and such. So, but also, when you're talking Ed Policy, Packers president, also chatted a little bit with some of the media yesterday. Some of the quotes. This was from Matt Schneidman. Ed Policy just sat down with us, said he was, quote, shocked at the question of whether he should fire Matt LaFleur. Said players sought him out to support LaFleur. Seems very confident LaFleur and Goody are the right duo to lead the Packers to a Super Bowl. He stressed the importance, Policy that is, stressed the importance of weighing entire tenures of LaFleur and Goody rather than making an emotional decision off of one game or a few games. So I know a lot of Packers fans probably not going to agree with that. Probably going to maybe respectfully disagree with that policy on that. But in all honesty, I think Ed Policy's probably got better resources and probably has better, what do you want to call it? What's the word I'm looking for? I'm blanking, but he's probably got a better inside track on that than a lot of us fans do. References. That's what I was going to say. References. He's probably got better references than maybe, taking it from some fans who, like us, are just sitting on the chair and sitting on the couch and kind of assessing it that way. But, we'll see how it plays out. Oh, backup quarterback. Want to get to this. Could Kirk Cousins be the backup quarterback in Green Bay? Brian Gutekunst was asked if they discussed signing Kirk Cousins to be quarterback 2. He said, quote, "Yeah, we've discussed a lot of those options. Obviously, that's a guy who's got a lot of pelts on the wall in this league, so we've certainly discussed all those kinds of things." We'll have competition with it, though, because Sean McVay very publicly yesterday saying they want Kirk Cousins. If I'm Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm like, hey, because there was the talk about, hey, Jimmy G could come back. Maybe it's Kirk Cousins. But Sean McVay, very publicly saying, Kirk, come be the backup. Come join us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if I'm Jimmy G, I'm like, hey, if I'm not your first option, I'm out of here. So maybe that leads a guy like Jimmy G to Green Bay and such. But I threw out a poll question for our 715 Speaks poll question on the Sports Talk Facebook page yesterday. Just simply asked, do you want to see or do you think Kirk Cousins would be a good backup option to Jordan Love? Do you want to see that? Little surprised. 71% of you said no. You don't want Kirk Cousins as a backup quarterback. I should have followed that up, but I'll do it right now, and I'll throw it back to all of you that said no. And if you didn't vote, but you'd say no, let me throw this back at you. Desmond Ridder or Kirk Cousins? Jordan Love has to miss 2 weeks. Who would you rather have playing quarterback for those 2 weeks? Kirk Cousins or Desmond Ridder? Those are the two options. Or, okay, no, I'll throw a third option. Jimmy G. Jordan Love has to miss 2 weeks due to an injury or whatever. Okay? Nothing serious, but he misses 2 weeks. Those are the three options you have. Nobody else. You cannot say, they should go sign this one. I'm throwing these three names out there. Jimmy G, Kirk Cousins, Desmond Ridder. Who do you trust the most? I don't think age really factors into this, but who do you trust the most? So a little bit of an informal poll question this morning. Hit me up. All right, 715-830-1912 with a quick text or chime in on that Section 105 chat room on the YouTube channel. So, all right, continue to send me your Toyson Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday. Also, we're all about feeling better on a Tuesday. What's a sports confession that you want to make? All right. Come on. We all have them. All right. I'm going to make my confession here coming up in a little bit. So send them on over, and also send over your I'm not sayings, but I'm just saying. We'll take a quick break, and we're going to be approaching halftime already. Flying on through on this Tuesday morning. All right. Quick break, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes. With spring rolling into the area, it's time to get back outside and enjoy the season. I know we got a little snow or winter weather or whatever we want to call it coming up here, but hey, it's Wisconsin. We're used to this. But whether you're heading to the range or maybe getting ready for hunting season or just gearing up for some time in the great outdoors, Tilden Gun is your local stop for selection, service, and expertise. They offer a wide range of firearms and accessories along with a knowledgeable staff who can help you find exactly what fits your need. No pressure, just straight answers and real guidance. It's about making sure that you are comfortable, confident, and ready for your next outing. Spring is the season to get prepared, to get organized, and to get outside. And Tilden Gun is here to help you do just that. Stop on in and see what they've got in stock and why so many in the Chippewa Valley trust them year after year. Tilden Gun. Check them out online, tildengun.com. It's so easy to shop up online and check out everything on their website. I've done it multiple times. Or you can stop by their awesome shop at 12427 98th Avenue in Chippewa Falls. All right, we got about 9 minutes left to the top of the hour. So coming up in about a half hour or so, maybe a little less, we'll catch up with RJ Cardinal. Talk all things Badgers, the women's basketball team, their WBIT run is over with. They fell yesterday to Columbia, but we are getting set for the men's hockey team and their Frozen Four game against North Dakota on Thursday. We'll hit that up. We'll talk a little football, too, because we got some spring ball practice going on. We'll get the latest from RJ, so that'll be about 8:15, 8:20 this morning. We've got more baseball talk coming up just to kind of reset from the first hour in case you missed it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how surprised were you to hear the news about Cooper Pratt getting a long-term deal from the Brewers? 10 being the obviously most surprised and shocked. 1 being, not really. Also, what would you be satisfied with from Brandon Woodruff this year outside of health? We all want him to be healthy. That's easy. But from a performance standpoint, what would be kind of like, all right, yeah, what would make you go like, all right, I'm good with that. That's solid stuff from Brandon Woodruff. I'd be good with that. What do you want to see from Brandon Woodruff this year outside of just him being healthy? Realistic expectation. Okay? So we'll get back to that and then talk about tonight's game with Brandon Woodruff making his regular season debut. So, for a texter, no name, can't give you any credit, but we asked the question before the break. All right, if these are the 3 backup quarterback options for Green Bay, these are the 3 you have to choose. Who would you choose? Kirk Cousins, Jimmy G, or Desmond Ridder? Texter, don't have a name, can't give you any credit, said Jimmy G. My girlfriend would watch football without me begging. Solid choice. So, we got a couple of Kirk Cousins. Honestly, it's probably, because everybody else just texted a name in, it's probably like 33% for each. It's pretty even, to be honest with you. We had Ben say Desmond Ridder because of his mobility. We had Eric saying I'd be good with either Jimmy G or Kirk Cousins because they're veterans who have played for a long time, have a little bit more experience and familiarity with Matt LaFleur's style of offense. So, yeah, honestly, it's pretty even across the board at this point in time. So keep those picks coming. Nick says for a season for Brandon Woodruff, learn to use a space bar. You probably did. My eyes are not reading this screen well lately. Must be old age. 12-6 with a 2.90 ERA, average 5.2 innings per outing, 1 home run. Like 1 home run per outing, I'm assuming. So there's no LOL with that. There's no LOL. Come on, don't. Be confident in your pick there, Nicholas. So, what, hitting? Oh, hitting 1 home run? So, is that what you're saying? Hitting 1 home run? You have to actually be in that lineup there, bro. So, all right, just a couple minutes left. Keep those coming. Keep those expectations coming. We got a few people with the Cooper Pratt one saying that they're at about a 7, at about an 8. Eric says that he was on an 8 because he thought for sure that he was going to be trade bait with the Brewers getting Jet Williams this offseason and with Jesus in the minor leagues. Another texter said 8 because he thought Cooper Pratt was the third best shortstop in their prospect system. Yeah, I mean, if you look at their rankings, he's their 4th rated prospect. You know, you got Pena, you've got Jet Williams, you've got Jesus over there. So I mean, he is their 4th ranked prospect, but the other 3 are also infielders too. So yeah, it seems like I'd say a lot of you just texting in the numbers, probably around a 7 or an 8 in terms of the surprise scale. Honestly, I'm probably there with you. I'm probably at an 8. And again, this is obviously they know more about it than we as fans from the outside looking in, but I'm kind of curious to see the trickle-down effect. Like, who does – obviously, I think this affects a guy like Joey Ortiz more, which I'm sure for some Brewers fans, it's not a big loss in their opinion. But what does it mean for a Jet Williams, like when he gets called up? Or where's his future position at? Is it outfield? Is it third base? Is it second base? It's not shortstop. It'd be, if Cooper Pratt played more at third, maybe that'd be an option. But again, then you got like Fisher and Brock Wilken, who are kind of your power bats guys are at third. So, yeah, honestly, I feel like I almost feel like this raises some more questions about what this future lineup could look like. But hey, let's focus on the now. We got a 3-1 Brewers team, right? That'll let it play itself out. But it's a good conversation to have to kind of like look ahead into the future. Get your crystal balls out. All right, maybe we'll do this. Get your crystal balls out. I'm holding a baseball, so this is my crystal ball. Let's say in 2026? 2029. What does the infield look like? What does the infield look like for the Milwaukee Brewers in 2029? All right. Give me your third baseman. Give me the shortstop. Give me the second base. Give me the first baseman. Heck, throw catcher in there too. Why not? Throw the catcher in there too. We'll throw the catcher in there. That one might be kind of easier. But how do you think it's going to look in 3 years? Get the old crystal balls out, or the Magic 8 balls, or the Euchre 8 balls. All right. So, surveyor says, going back to the quarterback question, the obvious choice is Kirk. 2 games, and the man will farve it 250 to 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. But why not go out and get someone like Tyrod or Hendon Hooker or Teddy Bridgewater? Well, I think Bridgewater signed. Yeah, I think he's with Detroit. Yeah, he is. So Teddy Bridgewater's out there. Or not out there. He's back with the Detroit Lions. And Hooker is actually with the Jets right now. And then who's the other one? Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor is a free agent, I think, right now. Yeah, it looks like he is. So of the 3 that you threw out there, surveyor, one's a free agent at this point. So got Jim says Cousins or Jimmy G would be good, whichever we could get the cheapest. Duran Jim just got back from Fort Myers. Good to hear you again and listen to the Brew Crew. Well, thank you, Jim. Welcome back. All right. Halftime, baby. News updates. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Third quarter kicking off right now on this Tuesday morning, the final day of March. Thanks for hanging out with us, no matter where you're tuning in from or how you're tuning in this morning. We've got Badger Chat coming up in about, let's say, 10, 15 minutes or so. RJ Cardinal, lots to catch up on. Badger women's basketball team, their WBIT tournament run ended yesterday with a loss to Columbia in the semis. We've got Badger men's hockey Frozen Four matchup with North Dakota coming up on Thursday. Even a little Badger football spring practice. So RJ will be joining us here in just a little bit. It is a Toyson Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what is grinding your gears? What is grinding your gears? Get it off your chest, okay? Send it on over. It is also a Sports Confession Tuesday. So what do you need to confess? If you gotta confess your sins from a sports-related thing. We're all about making Tuesdays a feel-better Tuesday. Also, taking your I'm not saying, but I'm just sayings. Best ones I'll read up on the air. Nick says 3-0 against the Cubs. Sorry, Josh. Is that your prediction for Brandon Woodruff? Here's the thing, Nick. Josh probably ain't even listening. You know what I mean? Josh ain't even listening, probably. He's probably, like, busy working or something. So, all right. By the way, speaking of, we were talking a little Packers in the last hour too, because Matt LaFleur chatted with the media, Goody and Ed Policy at the owners' meetings and such. Maybe a lot to do about nothing, but it looked like Jair Alexander posted a photo from Green Bay yesterday. Yeah, it honestly, it's probably a lot to do about nothing. I hate cryptic stuff. And it wasn't like of Lambeau Field or anything like that. It was just a part of Green Bay. So again, it probably has a lot to do with nothing. I mean, he spent how many years there living there and playing for them. And obviously, you know, Goody's in Phoenix. Matt LaFleur's in Phoenix. Ed Policy's in Phoenix. So, and Philadelphia still holds his rights. So I know some people are saying, ooh, return to Green Bay and such. I wouldn't. No, I don't think that's the case. So, but okay, let's say Jair's healthy, mentally, physically, and he's released, or maybe do you try? I don't know. Would you welcome back Jair in Green Bay? Maybe at that cornerback position, you'd take all the help that you can get at this point in time. So, but yeah, I did see that somebody had mentioned. If I'd seen that, I did see that on his Instagram that he posted a picture of him in Green Bay. So, but I don't. If you're getting your hopes up for a reunion, I wouldn't at this point in time. So, since we were talking to Brewers, he's a former Brewer, but let's give him a little bit of a tip of the cap. Remember Joey Weimer? Outfielder Joey Weimer? Dude's got a cannon. He's with the Nationals right now, but he has tied Carlos Delgado's record by reaching base safely in his first 10 plate appearances of an MLB season. And his first series was against the Cubbies, too. So Joey Weimer getting it done right now with the Nationals. Shout out Joey Weimer. So, but yeah, I saw that tying the record with Carlos Delgado. There's a name you probably haven't heard in a while. Holy moly. By the way, too, if you are into Hard Knocks, a little bit different. So they're doing things a little bit different. They're actually going to training camp with the Seahawks this year. So usually you find a team that didn't make the playoffs, doesn't have a coaching change. You know, it's similar to that, but a little bit different now. They're going to the champs, and I think. Let me see if I can bring it up. I said because they're doing something with the Patriots. I felt like in 2027 as well. I could be wrong. I'll have to double check that. But yeah, the NFL just announced it. So, all right, going to the champs, going to training camp with the champs. Maybe that's the new direction they go, because I think it would just kept getting harder and harder to find something different. Maybe they just stick with Super Bowl champs. Maybe. Who knows? But, yeah, I do like Hard Knocks. It depends if I'm subscribing to HBO at the time or not. So, I don't know. It's interesting at times. But, all right. Let's catch up on a few messages on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line. A lot more 8s in terms of the surprise or in terms of how surprised you were with Cooper Pratt getting a new deal from the Brewers and locking him up. So I'd say that's probably where the average number is at that point. And honestly, that's probably where I would rank myself too. Is it a surprise that the Brewers would do a deal like this? No, I don't think it is. But is it a surprise that it went to Cooper Pratt? Yeah, I think that's fair. Because of the top 4 prospects, it felt like Cooper Pratt was probably the odd man out and probably going to be kind of trade bait. Nope, that's not the case. I do think it's a little bit of a risk to take. And I don't think this is the whole reason why they did this, but, we mentioned in the first hour, a source told Adam McCulvey from Brewers.com that, they're hoping with this contract now that he can maybe stop pressuring himself or maybe stop thinking about it or just kind of relax a little bit. And then we'll see an improvement from his hitting, that he can really focus on, getting better working in the cage and that. Similar, they said, to Jackson Cheerio, it takes a little bit of that pressure off and now he can just go out there and play. I get that. It's still a risk. And I understand that. I think, not to be all glass half empty approach here, but I think the other risk to that is, okay, what if he doesn't continue to get better in the cage? What if he doesn't continue to get better offensively? Then does that pressure start to build again? Where it's like, man, I got to get going. I've got this contract. They're counting on me, and it's still not performing well enough. Do you kind of push yourself? Do you put a little bit more pressure on yourself to make the big league club? There's always pressure. There's always going to be a pressure. You can find different ways. You can manufacture it. You can put different types of pressure on you. So right now, maybe it's a short-term relief. Like, okay, hey, I got a contract. I'm locked up for a while. I ain't going anywhere. I know my situation. I ain't going anywhere. But what if it doesn't start to translate from the offensive side? What if he doesn't start to produce offensively? And the longer he waits to get to the big league club, does it start to creep in like, when am I going to get there? What am I doing wrong that I'm not there yet? Or is that more from an outside? Because I feel like, too, if, let's say, for the longest, let's say we go throughout this whole season and we don't see Cooper Pratt at the major league level. Or we get halfway through the season, we don't see Cooper Pratt at the major league level, especially if, like, a guy of Joey Ortiz is not producing. Then there's going to be like, when's Cooper coming? He's getting paid. When's he coming up? When's he coming up? Because when Jackson Cheerio signed that deal, he didn't play at AAA, and there was and I know the Brewers didn't guarantee it that he was going to be on the opening day roster, but a lot of fans' perspective or thoughts at that time was, oh, he's getting paid that money. He should be on the opening day roster. So I'm sure there's probably some fans saying, okay, you got a deal, long-term deal, you better be on the opening day roster, or you better be on the major league roster here coming up soon. There's going to be some of that. But he's got all of the defensive traits to be a major league. Everybody says he's got major league level defense. There's no concerns about that. No qualms about that. It's just the offensive side of things that is a little bit up in the air at this point. We got plenty more Brewers chat to get to, though. So we're going to switch gears here a little bit and talk some Badgers with our guy, Mr. R.J. Cardinal. He's coming up after these quick words. Hey, sometimes accidents happen, but getting your vehicle back to normal doesn't have to be stressful. At Superior Auto Body, they specialize in getting your vehicle looking right again after dents, dings, or collisions. And the best part? Hey, they handle that insurance process for you, working directly with your provider to make things simple and hassle-free. No runaround, no confusion, just quality work and a team that's got your back every step of the way. Get your vehicle back on the road with confidence. Superior Auto Body in Eau Claire, where the job gets done right, and our official partners for Backyard Dreams. Switching gears here a little bit and talking all things Badgers with our guy, Mr. R.J. Cardinal. Good morning, R.J. How you doing, bud?
Good morning. Doing pretty good. How about you?
Not bad, man. Not bad. Let's lead off talking some hoops. So the Badger women's basketball team, their WBIT run ended yesterday in the semifinals to Columbia and such. And I know we had some, fans kind of poo-poo. It's the WBIT. It's not the NCAA and that sort of thing. But how, in your opinion, or what would you say to those fans? Like, why is this still beneficial for this program to make that run, to still be playing this deep into the season?
Well, just from where they were or have been, you're coming off of a few seasons where women quit the team based on alleged mental and physical abuse by a head coach, one who couldn't make grounds within the state, one who couldn't put together a culture of winning that was supposed to come with it. Sure, they had a bit of a rough stretch down the end of the season there, going into the Big Ten tournament and into the postseason. But I think most of the teams they ended up losing to in the latter half of their season were in the NCAA tournament. The Big Ten is one of the better conferences for women's basketball. And yeah, some of those teams made some runs. UCLA is in the Final Four for the women. Michigan lost to Texas in the Elite Eight. So like some of these programs are pretty good. And you saw Wisconsin upsetting some teams with winning records. A couple of Ivy League schools in there, losing to Columbia, but beating Harvard, who said they got jobbed, which I find hilarious. But it said Wisconsin was getting a lot of calls, but what are you going to do? You're at the home gym of somebody else in a conference that plays probably a different style of basketball, and it got reffed a certain way. Mm-hmm. You have to be at least somewhat excited from seeing a run to the WBIT semifinals from a team now. You don't know in this day and age who's coming back outside of, seniors being done. You don't know who's going to be on this roster next year, at least from the looks of it, based on what the results were this year. Coach Pington brought in some good talent and was able to at least put together 13 wins on the season. I think that's prior to the tournament run, so maybe 16 and 17 on the year. I don't know the last time Wisconsin's been that close to 500. I wish I could tell you I pay more attention to women's basketball, but I really don't. So it's just good to see another program at least being able to make a postseason tournament. It's no different than when Wisconsin maybe NIT there and went on a little bit of a run, and people were upset about that. But that Wisconsin team got to play more games and put together something on paper and on film that can help go into the following season. So hopefully with the newfound success they put together this past season, that can help roll over into next season, and hopefully, aim for a winning record and just a couple more wins in the Big Ten, and you might get there. So it's something. It's almost like football. Making a bowl game is good, no matter what bowl game it is. Even if you're not going for the national championship in the playoff, like making a bowl game is good for a program, no matter what the outside thinks. It allows you another month's worth of practice. It allows you more team exposure as a coach, because quite frankly, outside of exit interviews, if you don't make a postseason in any sport, you're pretty much done coaching until, like, if you have a open time like spring football or whenever they allow coaching contact for the other sports, you are done coaching essentially, and the weight training staff takes over as their main point of contact. So it is something that will always be good to be able to make a postseason.
So kind of with that, though, too, after this, do you feel more optimism surrounding this program now in the near future?
I mean, you got to tread a little lightly just because of history, But, I mean, based on some of the wins they had this season, they weren't happening previously. So you got to like the step you saw this year, but still tread lightly, because when success has come to the women's basketball program, it leaves as quickly as it shows up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. I agree. So switch it over to men's hockey, the Frozen Four. So the team able to get that OT victory against Michigan State. They're going to be in action here in just a couple days, going up against North Dakota and such. But kind of going back to that Michigan State game, RJ, I mean, that was an awesome game to begin with. I mean, to come from behind and then getting it done in overtime and such. But what did you see from this team that maybe you're like, hey, maybe this is a team that can get to the national championship now?
Well, they do actually have a week and a half off here, because hockey lets basketball take center stage, and then they play the 9th and 11th is the Frozen Four. So, I mean, it's best to do that rather than get lost in the NCAA basketball national championship coming up here.
Right.
So, I mean, the whole weekend, I like, we were kind of talking, I liked where Wisconsin landed. They have beaten Michigan State before when they were fully healthy, and swept them on the road when they were fully healthy. They're not fully healthy yet, but they're getting there. They've been without two of their top defensemen. I think one might be back for the Frozen Four. They had been in a stretch throughout the season with their two top centers were gone, so they were not the greatest up the middle. People are coming back, and we're seeing a Wisconsin team that looks more poised and composed than we saw in the middle of January and early February. But, after they went on that 0-6 run, they finished the season 8-3. They're getting back to what we were seeing at the beginning of the season. And both the way they beat Dartmouth and then Michigan State, just a poised team that really wasn't getting down on itself and putting pucks on the net. That game against Dartmouth could have been 5-1 without empty netters, because the amount of times they hit the post or the crossbar was just ridiculous. And I guess I found out, I didn't know this, shots hitting the crossbar is not a shot on goal, because the goalie doesn't need to play it, so it's not counted as a shot on goal.
Okay.
Yeah, never knew that. But you watch that game, that easily could have been a lot worse than 5-1. But Wisconsin gets into that third period, really put it up against Dartmouth in that game, and then scored two empty netters. So that was awesome to see. And then you bounce back, take the lead against Michigan State, who, all intents and purposes, has been one of the top teams in the country throughout the year, and go down to them 3-1, score 2 goals. I think it was 34 seconds apart in the third period to tie, and 24 seconds in, Ben Dexheimer, the captain, throws one from the blue line back in, and Augustine, screened by his own players, couldn't see the puck, and it just went right over his shoulder into the back of the net. It was awesome to see. It was something like we had talked about, this being a team, especially early in the season, and I guess later in the season, because I think as we talked, we said their resume is pretty darn good. It'd be hard to leave them out. But seeing this team be in the NCAAs and then make their first Frozen Four since 2010, when they finished second to BC. Hopefully, you can get back to that national championship game, and it's just one of those. Make it look like 2006 when both the men's and women's won national championships. Replay it 20 years later, hopefully.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. So we got that coming up. We'll dive into it a little bit more when we get closer to it next week and such. But we got spring football going on. And I saw Colton Bartholomew's latest piece, and he kind of talked about inconsistent is the only word that talks about the Badger quarterbacks so far this spring. What are some of the stuff that you have heard or read or maybe saw or whatever regarding this football team in spring practice so far?
The good thing is, I guess, spring ball doesn't count for anything official. So having the inconsistency now, you're having a couple of those quarterbacks who are throwing to these receivers and tight ends for the very first time. You have almost 40 guys that are brand new this spring. So really, it's fine with me. You can be as inconsistent as you want right now. Then you have a whole spring. You have your whole 7-on-7s in the summer for team activities that are led by the players themselves to work on timing and all that kind of stuff, and then be looking like game ready once we get to fall camp in let's see, we're not until September this year, so August. Don't have to worry about starting in July. That'll be 2027 when we play in Ireland late August of 2027. Yeah, I don't read too much into spring ball right now, because on a given day, the defense can look like it's all world, and the offense can look like they just don't know even how to snap a ball, and then it can flip a switch the next practice. So it's really a thing about implementing stuff with a brand new front, like a brand new front everything. Mm-hmm. So both sides of the ball are really just trying to work on stuff and things that they think will be able to work as they move on, but you're also going up against your own offense, your own defense. So it's not necessarily something that you're even in season when you're doing a scout team and mimicking a certain opponent. You don't really ever have to plan when you're Wisconsin to play Wisconsin. So that can be some of it too, especially when you start knowing each other's playbook. And at some point, that always tips in the favor of the offense, especially when the defense isn't allowed to hit people. So yeah, I've heard the same thing too about inconsistency, but the good news, like I said, the good news is it doesn't really affect the bottom line now. But if we still are talking about this come August, late August, then I'll start to panic.
Mm-hmm, right. Going back to basketball here quick on the men's side, I know the transfer portal doesn't open up until early part of next week. I believe it's the 7th, so a week from today, I believe it is. But Badgers-wise, I mean, we've heard a couple of names already. Jack Robinson and Ricardo Greppi are entering the transfer portal and such. Are those the only two that you've heard about too? I mean, I think there's some people kind of wondering about, is John Blackwell coming back and such, but that's still kind of early in the process. What are you hearing when it comes to some of the Badger men's basketball talk down in Madison?
Well, those are the only two I have heard of as well. And I guess the explanation for Greppy was he was a very late addition after one of the foreign players wasn't able to get into school at Wisconsin, and they needed to fill a roster spot and found him. So I don't ever remember him playing. And Jack, I guess his best thing he did this year was he's the one who took over the microphone on the social media, interviewing people during the Big Ten and the NCAA tournament. So, he didn't get much playing time either. Like in this day and age, when you can do that and you're not getting the playing time here, go hopefully find your playing time and be great where you can be great. It's not like those are some two big losses there, but I think a lot of people around here anyway are just operating under the assumption John Blackwell will be gone, solely based on his interview after the NCAA tournament came to an end. Talking about a mental struggle and really having to lean on the team this year. And there's some people who've been reporting he felt he was not appreciated when they brought in Nick Boyd, and Nick Boyd kind of took over the team. So we'll see what happens there, but it does seem like most people around here think Blackwell will be gone. So and I think it sounds like most people think Winter will be back. So I guess as of right now, Pete, I don't know if the program is, but it seems people covering the team are operating under 3 roster spots need to be filled right now.
Man, and then I guess, do you have the confidence? Look at the last couple of years where they were able to bring in Nick Boyd and John Tonje and such that Greg Gard's going to be able to find maybe some more backcourt help for this ball club?
Oh, absolutely. Anybody who likes shooting the 3 and connects on 30 some odd plus, why wouldn't you take a look at Wisconsin and see what they're doing? You had a couple of guys there. The last 3 they brought in have all had their best statistical seasons while at Wisconsin. One of them had eligibility left and decided to just not go to the NBA, I guess. Well, the other 2 are kind of set themselves up to be draft picks and hopefully, end up on an NBA full-time roster rather than a 2-way contract or anything like that. But especially one who, like Nick Boyd, who had the season he did and, wasn't even in contention for All-American or anything like that, or even All Big Ten, really. I would say from here on out in transfer portal, Wisconsin might be starting to be a destination people want to start looking at. So, you definitely have to give Greg Gard the benefit of the doubt when the transfer portal opens.
Mm-hmm. Right, no doubt about it. So, before I let you go, anything else happening down in Badger Land that us up Northerners should know or be aware of?
Not that I've really delved into yet, because softball is just kind of starting, so really haven't had a chance to look at that. Right now, a little bit of a dead period while I'm still just watching hockey.
Right. Before I let you go, because we're going to know the champ by the time. Who do you got for the men's basketball national championship?
Well, if Michigan wins, I win a pool at the Badger Tavern here in Madison. So I really hoping Michigan wins.
All right. What do you got on the other side? You going to go all Big Ten final, or does it care? Do you matter with that?
Well, if Illinois beats UConn, that knocks out a good majority of the rest of the people who can score points. So I want an all Big Ten final, and if Michigan comes out on top, I'm not even sure what the pot is, but Yeah, I'm sitting pretty right now because most of the people have UConn or Arizona winning. So as long as Michigan wins and Illinois wins, a lot of people are blocked out there, and then only 2 people in the pool, and I'm ahead of the other one in total points left. Only 2 people in the pool picked Michigan, so we'd finish 1 and 2, and I'd be on top. So crossing my fingers.
Well, I've got all my Final Four teams, but if it is Michigan and Illinois, I'm screwed because I had Arizona and UConn. So I'm the opposite way. But it is what it is. March Madness, man. So what do you got?
Yeah. I mean, I probably think Arizona's going to beat Michigan just because they look amazing. But for selfish purposes, I need an all Big Ten final with Michigan coming out on top.
That's what it's all about, though, right? That's what it's
right?
all selfish. Yeah. So
makes up for every bracket I entered this year.
There you go. RJ, appreciate it as always, buddy. Enjoy the rest of the week, man. And next week we'll chat some hockey with you. Okay.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you then.
You got it. There you go. There's RJ Cardinal joining us here this morning. We got to take a quick break, but we'll be back with plenty more. We'll get back to some more Brewers chats and all that good stuff coming up after these quick words. As the fields come back to life, it's time for spring sports here in the Chippewa Valley. Whether you're stepping up to the plate or hitting the track or getting back on the field, make sure that your body is ready to perform. At Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, their team specializes in keeping athletes of all ages healthy, strong, and in the game. From injury prevention to expert care and recovery, they've got you covered every step of the season. Don't let pain keep you on the sidelines. Get back in the game with confidence. Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, helping you move better, play stronger, and staying in the game. Bucks are back in action tonight. The Milwaukee Bucks are taking on the Dallas Mavericks tonight. So if you're still into hoops and Buck season, got another game coming your way tonight. And might be a little bit of a generic confession, but since it is Tuesday and it is our sports confessions, forgive me, sports gods, for I have sinned. I put all my faith and trust in that the Milwaukee Bucks this year were going to surpass expectations and surpass a lot of people's thoughts on how well the Bucks were going to do. And I sinned. I was wrong. Please forgive me for spreading that message that I think the Bucks can surprise people this year. I was completely wrong. I was completely off. So please, to the sports gods out there, forgive me, because wow, were we completely off base? Was I completely off base on that one? Completely wrong, man. It's just it. I know there's a lot of other stuff going on right now, sports wise, and Bucks are like in the rear view mirror for a lot of people. And given with everything going on, if they were in the playoffs and Giannis was healthy and such, it'd be different. But we're going to look back at this season with a lot of, depending on how this offseason goes. Let me take a step back and say, depending on how this upcoming offseason goes, we are really going to look at the 2025-26 Bucks season as a potential turning point, pivotal point in Milwaukee Bucks history. Again, depending on what happens. If Giannis re-ups, signs, then okay, maybe it's a blip on the radar, a speck on the spectrum. And it's just, we'll hopefully forget about this season. But if he moves on, if he gets traded and such, we're going to look at that 2025 offseason and the 2025-26 season as that turning point for the Milwaukee Bucks franchise, and maybe not in a good way either. But yeah, tip time for tonight's game for the Bucks as we start to wrap up this regular season is going to be at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock with the Mavericks coming to town, and then they got the Rockets tomorrow, and then the Celtics on Friday. So, right, man. Looking at the standings, if you're wondering about better odds for that ping pong ball, they are up a half a game over the Bulls right now. They can't get any worse than Brooklyn or Washington or Indiana. They potentially could against Memphis and New Orleans. Memphis is at 25-50. New Orleans is at 25-51. Dallas is at 24-51. Bucks 29-45. Chicago 29-46. So that's where things are currently at in the race for a better draft pick. So, okay, we do have to play a little catch up. So I do have to play one more break here, but send me your Toys and Fords Grind My Gears Tuesday, your other sports confessions, your I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. I've done my I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. I've done my confessions. I've got my Grind My Gears coming up in the next hour. So, but I want more of yours. All right? Send them on over. It's all about a Feel Better Tuesday. So we'll take a quick break, and we'll wrap up the third quarter of the third hour coming up after these quick words. Baseball is back, and that means one thing. It's also brat season, baby. Swing on into Mike's Star Market and stock up for game day the right way. From a fresh and wide variety of flavorful brats to everything you need to fire up the grill and feed the whole crew. Whether you're tailgating, backyard grilling, or maybe just catching the game at home, nothing says baseball like brats on the grill. Make every pitch, every inning, and every bite count. Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire, your home for brat season. Well, it looks like the Brewers aren't the only ones that are locking up some younger players who have yet to make their major league debuts. The Mariners have reportedly come to an 8-year agreement with Colt Emerson. The deal guarantees Emerson $95 million and includes a club option for the 9th season. The guarantee is a record for a player who has not yet made his major league debut. The deal also includes no trade clause and can max out to $130 million after incentives. So that's just kind of popping up here this morning. So Brewers did it with Jackson a couple years ago. They just did it with Cooper Pratt, and now Emerson. Part of me, and this would be a better question for people more intelligent in this area than I am in that, but with the potential of a work stoppage and with the potential of a completely different kind of collective bargaining agreement between the players union and Major League Baseball, are we going to see a few more of these deals get done with teams and younger prospects where younger prospects who don't have any experience or maybe have a little bit of experience at the major league level? So I'm just, that to me is, I'm kind of fascinated and curious to see if there's going to be more of these coming down the wire here. Are we going to see more teams, trying to maybe save some money? Is this going to be a trend outside of like the consistent high spenders of the Yankees, of the Dodgers, of the Mets, where they're going to be more risky, but hoping to also kind of get bargain deals? And then are we going to get to a point where maybe some of those highly touted prospects say, no, I'm going to bet on myself? It's a risk, right? Do you take the guaranteed money now, or do you take the risk? Are we going to see any of those players eventually say, I'm willing to wait a couple of years, or willing to wait a few years? I'm curious to see if more teams get on this. I don't know if I'd call it a trend right now, but yeah, we've got a couple of examples now, a couple more examples of teams investing on some unproven talent. It almost is kind of reminding me of not completely, but like the NFL draft, the first round picks, the boatload of cash they would sign without even playing a down in the NFL. Like the Jamarcus Russells and such, getting just a boatload of cash, and that didn't work. So not a great example, but similar in the aspect of these teams are, and at least these teams are getting in their prospects into their systems, and they've seen a little bit and the potential there. Back then in the NFL, you were drafting a rookie and you didn't even have him in your building yet, maybe for one interview and such, but still. Yeah, I'm curious to see if we get more of this coming down the pipeline. So, speaking of Brewers and baseball, we'll talk some more Brewers and baseball coming up in the final quarter. Brandon Woodruff, what are your expectations? What do you want to see from Woodruff this year outside of being healthy? Performance-wise, what's going to make you say, I'm good with that when it comes to Brandon Woodruff? I'm good with that. All right, let's talk about that coming up in the next hour, and we'll talk more about the Cooper Pratt signing as well. Quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, it is the final quarter, the final hour right now on this Tuesday morning, the final day of March. April Fool's Day tomorrow. We got a segment lined up for tomorrow for April Fools. So part of your homework assignment, by the way, for tomorrow. Okay, sports related, so don't worry. What fooled you the most? Like player-wise, team-wise? Was there a certain player, maybe it was a draft pick, or maybe it was a free agent signing that you got fooled? Like you thought it was going to be great. You thought it was going to be awesome. It was an awesome move. Nope, fooled. Team-wise, you went in thinking, oh, this team's got it all. They're going to win. Nope, fooled. And before the joke starts, yeah, you can make a case for a lot of Wisconsin teams for that. I get it. I understand it. We get so close, and then it's like collapse at the end. But that's going to be your homework assignment for tomorrow for little April Fools. But be aware, just a little PSA, public service announcement for tomorrow. April Fools coming your way. So, okay. Final call, because we're in the final hour, the final quarter here this morning. Your Toyson Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday. What is grinding your gears, people? All right, get it off your chest. Also, you got any confessions coming your way? Feel good Tuesday. Feel better Tuesday. All right, to feel better Tuesday. Also, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, send those on over. All right, to that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line or the Section 105 chat. You can do that too. So, Brewers back at it tonight after suffering their first loss last night to the Tampa Bay Rays, a 3-2 loss. But we get Brandon Woodruff on the mound tonight. So he makes his regular season debut. What do you want to see from Woodruff this year outside of just being healthy? That we all want to see that. We all want to see Brandon Woodruff be healthy for the most part of this year and pitching into September and October. We all want that. All right. So from a performance standpoint, what do we want to see from Brandon Woodruff? What is it? ERA-wise, innings-wise, yeah, that sort of thing. For what it's worth, if you're looking at like innings-wise, Pacoda has him at about 123. 123 innings pitched. So if we use that as a baseline, would you be like, okay, I'd get on that? Chad Patrick has the most for what it's worth at 134. Kyle Harrison, 107. Jacob Mizorowski, 121. Brandon Woodruff, 123. So if we use that as the base of 123, would you be, okay, I can get on that. I can buy that. I'm good with that. Honestly, if you do 123, let's average it out to 5 innings a contest. Okay? So, I mean, we can do the math, right? 123 divided by 5, you're talking about nearly 25 games pitched. If we said this year that Brandon Woodruff will pitch 25 games, start 25 games, would you take that? Honestly, I think I would. I think I would. I know I would, honestly. Yeah, I would. You look at it last year. Okay, he pitched in 12 games. 2023, 11. Obviously did not play in 2024. So he pitched 27 games in 2022. If this year he starts and pitches in 25, I 100% take that. You know what's kind of, you look at Brandon Woodruff's career here, he has only pitched in 8 years in 20 or more games 3 times in his career. 2019, he started 22 games, played in 22 games. And then you had the COVID year, 13 and 13. 2021, played in 30, started 30. 2022, 27 and 27. Then 2023, the 11 games and such, 2024, missed the rest of the year. And came back last year a little bit later than expected. 12. So if we get 25 out of Brandon Woodruff, I'm good. But I also don't want to see 25 games and he's like 4-15 with a 5+ ERA. Okay, he's a career 3.10. Last year, he threw 3.20. That was his ERA. Before he got hurt in 2023, he was at a 2.28. 2022, 3.05, 2.56. So I'd be good with like a 3.25, a 3.30, somewhere around there with 25 games. If it's similar ERA to what he had last year, was a 3.20, yeah, I'd be good with that. Wins and losses, I don't know if I want to get really into the weeds of wins and losses because there's so many other factors involving this with wins and losses. And I feel like that when it comes to pitchers now, wins and losses don't really tell the whole story. They don't. I mean, we've had too many pitchers now, like Cy Young winners with 500 records or below or right around it or maybe slightly above it. So I just, no, I can't. Honestly, I don't know if I could take win-loss records all that serious anymore when it comes to pitchers. Once in a while, yeah, when you've got a guy that's like, oh, dude's 24-5, that's awesome. Great. But it doesn't tell the whole story. I almost feel like what's the best way to say this? A win-loss record, it may kind of solidify a player's season, but it doesn't, again, tell the whole story. It's not the be-all, tell-all stats. So I don't really, I guess, have an expectation of wins and losses because there's so many different circumstances that could determine that. I just want to see innings pitched. If it's in the 20s, 25, or excuse me, games pitched 20, 25, you're talking about 130, between 125, 130 innings. And like a 3.20, maybe like a 3.30 ERA, I'd be good with that. First hour, we had a texter, Jeremy, saying he wants Brandon Woodruff to be that stopper. And I think that's a good one. And I think that's the other part where I want to see Brandon Woodruff this year as Mr. Consistent, Mr. Stabilizer. You look at the other pitchers within this starting rotation, and we may see Robert Gasser, we may see Logan Henderson at points this season. I think that's probably a for sure thing. Jacob Mizorowski in his second year, Chad Patrick in his second year. We got Kyle Harrison and Brandon Sproat. A lot of inexperience, a lot of younger pitchers, right? Brandon Woodruff is the veteran, the guy, the old man, if you will. I want him to be kind of that consistent presence because with those younger pitchers, as talented as they are, maybe a little bit wild card, maybe a little bit up and down. May have some highs, may have some lows. For Woodruff, I just want that calming presence. Like when he's on the, we talk about this a lot with aces of a staff. When that guy's starting, whether it's Tariq or Skeens or Otani or whoever your ace is, you kind of have that like, okay, when he's starting, you feel like you're going to win the ball game. Not all the time it happens, but you feel like you're going to win the ball game because he's so good. And he's kind of that, when it's his turn to the rotation, you're feeling like that's going to be the win. I wouldn't call Woodruff an ace, but I feel like, okay, when it's his turn, when it's his spot, his start, you kind of know what to expect. You know what you're going to get with him. You know the performance you're going to get. You're going to get as consistent. You're going to get a solid outing from him. And if you're a position player, playing and you're in that lineup, you're like, okay, we know what we're going to get with Woody. We got to do our job now from an offensive standpoint. We got to put up some runs. We got to do this. We got to do that. You kind of have a good idea of what you're going to get with Brandon Woodruff. That's what I want this year. I want that consistency. I want that stability that he can provide to the starting rotation that is full of younger arms and inexperienced arms. And if he can do that, I think that is going to be a huge, huge bonus. And I think he just brings a sense of maybe calmness to, or a sense of confidence to this lineup, because I feel like maybe for some of these guys too, the offensive players, I'm talking about the position players, they're probably like, okay, this guy's got talent. Harrison's got talent. We know Miz got talent, but what's his day going to be like? Is he going to be on the good side, or is he going to be on the inconsistent side? And maybe for a guy like Contreras too, he's working his butt off. I think, in the early few games here, we're hearing from these younger pitchers, even like Harrison. He was talking about, Contreras' no-nonsense feedback. And, it's a good piece from Adam McCulvey. Says, Kyle Harrison learned early on Monday that Contreras isn't messing around when the games matter. It was awesome from starting off in the bullpen and him ripping throws back at me. And Mizorowski kind of talked about the same thing. How can you tell when Contreras is maybe a little bit upsetter or when he's like really whipping him back? And I think we could kind of tell if you're watching the game when there's a little oomph back on that throw. And I can't say what Miz said, but he's like, get your blank together. That's kind of Contreras' way of saying, get your blank together. And maybe it's almost a little bit of a break for a guy like Contreras. If he does catch tonight, might be Sanchez, based off the left-handed pitcher and such, but might be a nice little breather for Contreras too. Like, okay, this guy's been around the block. He knows what he's doing. Not to say he has to take a little bit off, but just might be a little nice, breath of fresh air from Contreras behind the dish, talking or catching a guy like Woodruff compared to all the younger, inexperienced guys out there. But I think, and we heard Yelich last year talk about singing the praises of Brandon Woodruff too, saying going into a postseason, I don't want any other guy out there besides Brandon Woodruff. So when he's in that lineup, I just think it gives the confidence to the rest of the ball club. Like, all right, we're in good hands with Brandon Woodruff out there. We know what to expect from him. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm putting a ton of pressure on Woodruff or really kind of giving the sense that, okay, this season is going to depend on the performance of Brandon Woodruff. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I do think he is a key player in the overall success, not just from a win-loss standpoint, but, when you look at the rest of the pitching staff and such, just to be that calming presence. All right, let's take a quick break. Plenty more to get to, though, baseball, football-wise, and such. So let's get right at it. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back after these quick words. Quite a few of you already signing up for the Kasper Classic coming up in August. Hey, appreciate that. That's awesome to see. I was checking out some of the numbers early this morning before popping up on the air, and saw quite a few teams have signed up. So if you want to ensure your spot, we've sold out every year. I think we're already ahead of schedule here with signups. Make sure you get to sportstalk1051.com or 715store.com. And get your two-person team in for the Kasper Classic. All the details at our website. So, again, a big thanks to everybody that's already signed up your team, even though we are a few months away from that. It's good to see everybody supporting Backyard Dreams and such. So, big thanks again. We got those 3 tee times, remember, 7:30, 10 a.m., and 1 p.m. So, let's do a little Toys and Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what is grinding my gears? Okay, so y'all know I'm a big hat guy. I love my hats. I love wearing hats. I'm still on the ever-ending quest to find the perfect go-to everyday hat. And maybe there isn't such a thing. That's okay, though, because that's always my goal, and I'm always on the hunt. The one that where you just maybe it's like, okay, it's too early in the morning and, you just like, I got to get a hat that, just what's my go-to hat? Maybe some people have them. I don't, but I'm always on that never-ending quest. Well, the Packers, or I should say the Packers, the NFL released their new draft hats, okay? And I've got a couple. I've bought a few draft hats over the years. I thought they looked cool in that, and I've saved a couple of them in the man cave on display. It was the 2 drafts that I've attended, including last year's Packers one. So I've got a little kind of wall display of how many hats are on there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 championship ones that I was around for, Bucks, 2 Packers ones, and then 2 draft ones. So they released the draft hats yesterday. And on the outside, it looks, okay, pretty generic, right? Not bad. Got a pin on there for the draft, the Packers G, the yellow brim, the green background. I'm like, okay, I could buy it. And then on the inside, it's like they always got to add a little bit of something. So if you look at it from the inside, they've actually got like a photo, an image that represents the city. And I remember one of the hats that I got from one of the drafts I went in 2015 in Chicago, under the brim, it had like a design. And for the Packers, it was that bridge. If you've been to Green Bay, you go up the top of Lambeau Field and you look, you can see that bridge. I'm blanking on the name right now. But anyways, the image inside this hat is the Lambeau Field bleachers. It looks pretty cool. I got a couple things that are grinding my gears with this. One, why the inside where the sweat and all that is just going to ruin it? I'd rather have it under the brim, okay? Just say it. I'd rather have it under the brim. But what really grinds my gears on this, why are these like nearly $50 hats, for crying out loud, are costing like $50? Okay, I need a new Brewers hat. And it's like $45-$50. Come on, we got to make these more affordable for the average fan here, okay? I can't drop $45-$50 for a new Brewers hat or a Packers hat right now, for crying out loud. And I got to get the fitted one. I'm sorry. If it comes to a baseball hat, a Brewers hat, I got to go fitted for this. I'm nothing against snapbacks. I've got some snapbacks and I've got some flex fits that are good. But when it comes to like a baseball hat, I got to go fitted. But man, prices of these things, maybe it's a good thing though, so I don't overdo it when it comes to hats. So maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a little bit of a good thing. So I'm not like spending my tax return or something on a boatload of hats. But I like it. I like the look of it. It just grinds my gears. The price tag for that, some of that stuff. Jeez Louise. So, speaking of Packers, though, Matt LaFleur, Brian Gutekunst, Ed Policy, chatting a little bit yesterday with the media at the owners' meetings and such. And really, I paid more attention to what Matt LaFleur had to say, because this is the first time we've heard from Matt LaFleur since he signed his extension and, coaching stuff and all that. And I know yesterday we had a little fun kind of talking about what would you ask? What would you ask Matt LaFleur if you had a question? And I had a few of them, and honestly, my main ones were kind of answered yesterday. They really were. And some of the big ones he addressed were, how do they finish games? He addressed his grade from the NFL Players Association. So, and I thought he was fairly open and honest and acknowledged, like, yeah, we got to do a better job. I got to do a better job. I got to do a better job connecting. Revealed, too, that there were players that were unhappy with their roles last year. Wouldn't say who. Wouldn't say if they were still on the team or not. I know one person that everybody kind of assumed was Matthew Golden, the rookie. But, again, I would say a lot of fans were also upset about his role. Quay Walker kind of gave that impression during his introductory presser with the Raiders that maybe he was played out of position or didn't like his role either. So, outside, I know the jury is still out on Matt LaFleur, and a good chunk of that jury has probably already decided that, no, they're not Matt LaFleur people, or they don't believe in Matt LaFleur, or that he can't win. I don't know. Maybe he can, maybe he can't. Right now, he hasn't. That's all we have to go based off. He has not won a championship. He's been to a couple of championships. He's been to the playoffs, but right now, it's all about hoisting the Lombardi, as he acknowledged. And I just feel like right now, from March 31st up until the end of July, when training camp opens, that first day of training camp, he has got to get that team to buy in. He has got to get everybody on the same page. He has got to get all the players to buy into their roles, to buy into what he's selling, to buy in to what the vision is and what the game plan is this year. Because for crying out loud, if we head into this year and there's still some of that stuff, then, yeah, I think you can really look at that extension and be like, was that a smart decision? But we don't know that right now. I just think it's a very, very crucial part that Matt LaFleur and his coaching staff, and maybe the leadership council, the veterans on this team, they have got to make sure that everybody's all in, that everybody's buying in for the good of the team, for the overall success of the team. Has to. And then it's a big part, and it's a big thing that Matt LaFleur, as the head coach, has to figure out going forward. How do they do better? He's got to look back, do some self-reflection, do some self-scouting, look at yourself in the mirror and say, what did I do wrong? Or how can I get better? Because we could tell. We may not be in the locker room, but we could tell when you could just sense or see that, okay, something's not gelling. Or something's a little bit off. And that usually spells doom. And we talked about it a lot last year. As long as he still has a locker room, you got to have that locker room. And I think right away, you got to get that locker room. Got to get them on the same page. All right. Final call for any of your confessions, your grind my gears, or any I'm not sayings, but I'm just sayings. Okay? We'll take a quick break as we are halfway through the final quarter. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes. 6:40 tonight, first pitch between Brewers-Rays, Game 2 of this series. Again, Brandon Woodruff's going to be making his regular season debut. You can listen to it right here on the radio dials, 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Coverage will begin about 35 minutes prior. So, again, radio dials, 105.1 FM and 790 AM. So we mentioned a little bit earlier that, obviously yesterday the news from the Brewers that Cooper Pratt signing a long-term deal. So 8 years, a little north of $50 million. The Brewers have not made that official yet. So it seemed like from a lot of you, a little surprised. I was surprised at it too, because I thought maybe that Cooper Pratt was one of those guys that was kind of going to be lost in the shuffle, maybe trade bait, considering all the other acquisitions and the rise of other younger players within the minor league system. So a little bit of a surprise in that aspect, maybe. But earlier this morning, Colt Emerson, who is also a minor league shortstop with the Seattle Mariners, though, he has reportedly signed an 8-year, $95 million contract. According to Jeff Passan, he will remain at the AAA level for now, but is clearly a big part of Seattle's future. Passan went on to say, between Cole Emerson today and Cooper Pratt with the Brewers yesterday, teams are more and more willing to give big money to players with no major league service time, but the pedigree to be frontline players. The allure of having a player's prime locked up makes it worth the risk. And I think that's what it kind of, and I think part of it, though, too, is not only that, but let's also kind of be real with the big issue in Major League Baseball is salaries, payrolls, and teams willing to spend more than others. That's a part of it, too. If that wasn't a part of it, teams aren't doing this. If every baseball franchise had unlimited amount of money, or if there was a salary cap or whatever, where everybody had to spend the same, and everybody could spend the same, you're not seeing Cooper Pratt get an 8-year contract. You're probably not even seeing Jackson Chourio get that contract. If the Brewers had money upon money upon money to spend, or there was a cap, you're probably not seeing these deals get done. You're not seeing teams going out there and maybe throwing out a risky play. It's just, I wouldn't see that happening. And I think this is part of the current structure now. And I know earlier we were talking about this, kind of saying, would this be, and I don't know if trend is the right word, but are we going to see more teams do this? Well, we've got the Brewers that have done it. We've got the Mariners that have done it. And remember, the Mariners are a World Series contender this year. They're a very popular pick to come out of the American League to get to the World Series. So, I mean, it's not like this is a team that's maybe hovering around 500, maybe just making the postseason, and that's kind of the goal. No, this is a team that's got World Series aspirations this year, and they're kind of doing the same thing, locking up some future young talent. A little bit of a risk, but they're hoping that it's going to look like a bargain when it comes down to it. And I don't know if the uncertainty of what the new collective bargain agreement is going to look like, what the new CBA is going to look like between the Players Association and Major League Baseball, is there going to be any sort of lockout or whatever the case may be. But I'm curious to see if we're going to see more of this. And we've seen it once in a while in the past, right? The Brewers did it with Freddie. They did it with Aaron Ashby. They obviously did it with Jackson Chourio. Other teams have done it. The Braves were a team that's done it before and such. But I'm curious if we get, now that there's a little bit more of a sample size with everything, will we see more teams do it? Or are some teams like, you know what, we can't take that risk. We can't take that risk. I think from Cooper Pratt's perspective, if we just leave it from a Brewers side of things, To me, the interesting thing now is going to be when is Cooper Pratt called up? He's at AAA right now. He's got a couple games in AAA. But one of the interesting quotes that I keep going back to was from Adam McCulvey at Brewers.com, and he talked to an unnamed source with the Brewers because the deal's not official and not able to talk about it. But he said the source that he said, or a source he talked to said that now with this deal, he can kind of just relax, not have to press, not have to worry about things, and just get better in the cage and just get better at hitting. And it kind of relates to Pat Murphy's comments too, where, he talked about he's not ready yet, got a ways to go. I hope I'm the manager when he does get called up. It paints the picture that it ain't going to be anytime soon. So even though with this 8-year contract, it gives the impression, don't expect him to be on the major league ball club anytime soon. But I don't know if this is and I hope it's not, because I think that's also kind of bad business. But I hope the main reason why they didn't okay, we're going to give you an 8-year deal and $50-some million. And, they didn't go about this that's the main reason why they wanted to get him to not think about it and get better at hitting. Because what happens if it doesn't get better at hitting? Then you're kind of almost stuck a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It's a risk in that aspect. You're counting on him to just get better in the cages and get better offensively because he's got his deal. He doesn't have to worry about it anymore. There's always going to be some sort of pressure, though. And I think that's kind of a short-term fix. And maybe that short-term fix develops into a long-term solution. All right, short-term, he starts to get confidence, he starts to get better, and that confidence builds and builds and builds. Boom, offense, he's good. Defense is already ready. Let's call him up. What if the offense doesn't get better? What if he doesn't get better in the cage? What if he continues to struggle? And then there's that pressure, man, I got this contract. I gotta play up to that contract now. I gotta. What if I'm not? Then you kind of put that pressure on. It's I'm not playing up to that contract, or man, I'm not up to the major league level yet. What do I got to do differently? Maybe I got to be better at this, and I got to do this, and I got to do that. There's always going to be pressure regardless. So maybe this alleviates that a little bit. But the longer he doesn't get to that major league level, you're going to have fans with the pressure. There's going to be internal pressure. The longer you go without getting to the major league club with a contract like that, there's going to be pressure. Because there's going to be questions. Why aren't you up yet? So I'm curious to see how this kind of plays out. And then, of course, the trickle-down effect. I think if you're Joey Ortiz now, you're yeah, I know I'm not going to be with the Brewers for long term. And probably already had that idea. I mean, you look at the minor leaguers and the highly touted prospects and such. But, you get the crystal ball out. What's this infield going to look like in 3 years? Is Jesus the replacement for Bryce Terang then? Because Cooper has essentially played shortstop. He's got a couple reps at second base, but he has been primarily a shortstop. So if Cooper's a shortstop, does that mean Jesus more reps at second? What about Jet Williams? You're thinking, okay, third, he's an infielder, but what about Fisher and Brock Wilken? They're power bats at that spot. That's what we have clamored for a long time, right? Power bats. Well, maybe Brock can play first. What about Fisher? Third. Well, Jet Williams has a little bit of experience playing the outfield too, so maybe he's your outfielder. I would be surprised if, let's say in 3 years, in 2029, your infield maybe looks something like Jefferson Quiro at catcher, who they're very high on. They love that guy. Fisher at third. Cooper Pratt at short. Jesus at second. And maybe they put Brock over at first. It's almost giving 2008, that era vibes. Remember J.J. Hardy, Prince Fielder, Ricky Weeks, Ryan Braun, Corey Hart, and then right towards the back end, a little Jonathan Lucroy, they were all coming up together. It's kind of giving those vibes a little bit. That's what it's kind of reminding me of. I mean, you look at it, they've got depth all across the board. And I think the Brewers have kind of put themselves in a position that they are a team right now that they could compete right now. They could compete for a playoff spot. I don't know if they could compete for a World Series given the other teams in play, but they could be a playoff contender. But they're also set up, I believe, to be perennial playoff contenders with their depth. They're going to be a team, and it's really rare, I think, but they're going to be a team that next year, that roster might be half different, but the expectation is still going to be up there because they're really talented. It's almost like a college team, if you think about it. Brewers are almost kind of like a college team. This is their team for this year. Next year, some guys are gone, new guys are brought in, same goals. And maybe they don't miss a beat. It's kind of like that a little bit. And I think I'm going to have that expectation for the Brewers going forward. They've got younger pitchers. They've got a lot of young, talented players too. I think the one question may be, what's their outfield depth look like? But you know what? If Jackson Chourio is going to be there, let's lock up the greatest player of all time, Salvatore Frelick. I know, just bear with me. And, I mean, this is a big year for Garrett Mitchell, too. But if Chourio's already got a spot locked down. If they get Frelick for, I think you could sign him fairly cheapish. You're in a good spot. All right, we got to take a break, and then we got to wrap it up with some picks. So we'll be right back after these quick words. All right, time to wrap it up with some picks here this morning. Let's start off in the NHL world, shall we? We've got Dallas taking on Boston. Give me the Stars. New York Islanders taking on Buffalo. Give me Buffalo. Montreal taking on Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay. Ottawa at Florida. I'll go Ottawa. Devils, Rangers. Give me the Jersey Devils. I was gonna say Detroit Tigers. Red Wings and Pittsburgh. I'll go Red Wings. Flyers, Caps. Give me the Capitals. Carolina taking on Columbus. I'll go Carolina. Winnipeg and Chicago. Give me the Winnipeg Jets. And then Mike Kraken taking on Edmonton. Of course, it's always the Seattle Kraken. NBA schedule. We've got Phoenix at Orlando. I'll go with the Magic. Hornets, Nets. Give me the Hornets. Man, 17.5-point favorites, too. Think about the Hornets. They wouldn't have been that big of a favorite at the beginning of the year. Toronto at Detroit. I'll go Pistons. Knicks taking on the Rockets. Ooh, I'm going to go Rockets. Let's go Cleveland at the Lakers. Give me the Lakers. Portland at the Clippers. I'm going to go Clippers. Dallas at Milwaukee. Sorry, I'm going to go with the Mavericks. So, MLB schedule for today. We've got the Rangers taking on Baltimore. I'll go Baltimore. Let's go Chicago White Sox taking on Miami. By the way, yesterday, White Sox picked up their first win. So let's go Miami. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. I'll go Pittsburgh in this one. Washington, Philadelphia, Colorado, Toronto. Athletics versus the Braves. Aaron Savali's on the mound for the Athletics. I'm going to go Atlanta. Angels, Cubs. I'll go Cubs. Let's go Mets, Cardinals. I'll go Mets. Boston taking on Houston. I'll go Red Sox. Tigers, Diamondbacks, Tigers. Yankees, Mariners, Yankees. Giants, Padres, Giants. Logan Webb's on the mound. I think he bounces back. Cleveland, Dodgers. Shohei on the mound. Tanner on the mound for Cleveland. I'm going to go Dodgers, though. Brandon Woodruff on the mound for the Brew Crew, taking on Shane McClanahan. I am going to go with the Brewers and Brandon Woodruff helping lead the way. So those are your picks for this morning. Your homework for tomorrow. It is April Fool's. So give me an athlete, a team that you were fooled by. Like you were pumped about a free agent signing. You were pumped about a trade. You were pumped about a draft pick. And you were wrong. You got completely fooled. All right? Team-wise, too. You went into the season thinking, oh, yeah, nobody's stopping. Nope. You got fooled. You got fooled. So we'll do that for a little April Fool's Day coming your way tomorrow. Also, with it being tomorrow for your homework assignments, what I want from all of you, and you can start to text them now, and I'll just save it for tomorrow if you'd like. But we'll do our little Mike Star Market. Am I wrong? Okay, give me your sports opinions. Give me your sports takes. Where you'd be like, am I wrong? Tell me I'm wrong. Your game changer of the week, your Hy-Vee game changer of the week. So a play, a player, a team, a move, whatever it may be. But your game changer of the week. And then we'll do our Inside the Hobby. But your homework assignments are your Hy-Vee game changers and your Mike Star Markets. Am I wrong? And sports-wise, who or what were you fooled by the most? And hey, this actually could work for a little Inside the Hobby coming your way tomorrow. So maybe if you are a card collector or you are a memorabilia collector, you were like, oh, this dude, he's going to, be worth a lot of money. He's going to be worth so much money. And nope. You got fooled. Or did you fool somebody saying, oh, I'll make that trade for you? That's kind of like me when I was a kid. I remember Jeff Blake. I had this really cool Jeff Blake card. And it was worth a lot at the time. Like when I say a lot for elementary fourth grade, it was like $10. But I traded it for a couple of common Deion Sanders cards. I got fooled at that time. But now, Not anymore. They got fooled. So kind of like that. Let's have a little fun with that coming your way tomorrow. So, okay, shot clock's going to cut me off here in less than a minute. So, again, reminder, Brewers game tonight, first pitch, 6:40. You've got Bucks in action tonight as well, 7 o'clock. So, got a couple different options if you got to stay in because of the weather and such. So, but Bucks pregame coverage will begin on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM at about 6:05. And then we got a day game tomorrow where Jacob Misarowski is going to be back on the mound. So, but we'll talk about that game hopefully after a win today, and hopefully we're talking about a potential series win for the Brewers tomorrow afternoon. So, hopefully. All right, shot clock's going to cut me off. Have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. All right, enjoy the final day of March. We'll be back same place at same time tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Talk to you then.